Okay, still waiting for that preview. Come on. Come on, slobs. Come on,
You can
Slobby.
do it.
Come on, Slobby. You can do a killer. Come on. You got this. I got to pee so bad. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Hold me in water.
Oh, here it is. D&D. It's D&D Beyond. It's D&D Beyond. Oh, man.
Ooh, 2 whole minutes to go. Look at me.
We're
right,
early.
So
But the preview is not up,
we have hit our first
as far as
problem.
I can tell.
It is not connecting
No.
to the
I see a little red. Oh, there you are. There it is.
Did it start?
Oh, yeah, we're legit live. Like they were So
okay.
I see me drinking water and looking
Streamlabs
around.
OBS sucks, man. All right, so here's what happened. I gotta fix this really quick. I don't think we'll have to stop and restart. I just gotta move some stuff around. So I create. Oh shit! It went to the wrong event. So now I gotta delete this one and hope everybody comes over to the new one.
Yeah, Medsis, yes, I do have pictures of me without the beard, but they are 6 years, almost 7. They'll be 7-year-old pictures in June 2020.
Streamlabs OBS is garbage, dude. It's garbage. It's garbage. All right, hold on. We're just about ready to get started, guys. This is a premature streamulation. All right, so let me see. So if I click this, can I delete it so that people stop going to like the stream that's supposed to start? Yes.
How long till the beard achieves sentience? Oh, that's the thing. Is it's not a true form of sentience. It's more like what are those things? The zombie funguses, cordyceps, right?
The hell is
it already
that?
has control. So
you know really weird shit. People have pointed that out before on the show. You have like really like weird facts that pop up every once in a while, and I'm like, how does he know that?
So for anybody who played The Last of Us, they'll know what I'm talking about. But
okay.
Cordyceps are a kind. I think I'm saying the right thing. They're a kind of fungus that will infect ants in the Amazon. I think generally.
Oh, I've heard. Okay, I've heard of those.
What happens is it infects the brain of the ant and kind of and starts to control the body of the ant to force it to climb up trees out onto branches, where it then explodes and rains down more fungus spores to infect more ants and stuff. It's a trip, and these are like legit thing. It's like zombie fungus.
I swear I've seen this in like a Nat Geo documentary or something where it looks like little crystals and stuff are like growing out of their heads and stuff. It's like, oh my god! Imagine if it could happen. If that could happen to an insect, why couldn't that happen to us? Like, could you imagine that? Like,
so well, there's genetic differences and stuff, and like our brains are more complicated and things. Because actually,
have you been on Twitter, bro? Come on.
I think there are actually health benefits to taking cordyceps.
Interesting. I never would have thought that. All right, well we are obviously live because you guys are showing up and you're talking in chat. So we weren't supposed to be. This was supposed to be the pre-stream to the dashboard on YouTube, but Streamlabs OBS only has an option to go live, which didn't work last week, which started a preview stream instead, and this time it just created a whole new event and just bypassed my event that was already scheduled that it was supposed to stream to. So anyways, so that's why we're caught off guard. Like what you guys are supposed to see is this. You're supposed to see this for a while, and then you were supposed to see this. But you're seeing this. So welcome to the stream. Emmanuel, thank you for the $2 Canadian roonies. Breaking Elegance, thank you for the $2. He said, I am one.
Number
one. You dated from Star Trek? By the way, there's something to get us warmed up while we're waiting for everybody to get in here. Dude, have you been watching my card?
No, but I want to.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
I threw my money into Disney Plus instead of the CBS one. So
Oh, gotcha. Well, I mean, that was probably the better decision because there's more stuff to watch on Disney right now.
I
But
think, yeah, well, because it's the Wombo combo, Disney Plus and Hulu and ESPN, whatever. Because I can't actually watch football on ESPN Plus or whatever their streaming
yep.
service looks. Which what a waste.
Wait,
I have other ways of watching football.
you actually somebody said they caught me stepping out to piss. Oh, that's right, because I started the stream before I went pee-pees.
But yeah, I watch football. My girlfriend turned me on to it. I'm not like a super fan or anything, but I do actually enjoy watching the game. It is like once I figured out the rules and stuff, like watching the strategery and all that stuff is actually it's a pretty cool game.
I enjoy watching football with friends on TV, but I don't like watching it by myself. Like you'll never catch me watching a sport by myself. I'm one of those people where it's like I enjoy the energy of it, and the smack talking and the betting and the food and all that stuff, like that, the social aspects. But I'm not a big fan of like the game itself. Like I've only ever been to one football game in my entire life. It was in Minnesota when it was like -20 wind chill. And we went into a dome that was literally like an inflatable tent. Like they literally, the Metro Dome was literally a giant pressurized vessel that, like, when you walked in the doors, you were walking into like 100-mile-an-hour wind, and then when you left, you felt like a tornado was pushing you out of the building. You had to like lean backwards as you were walking out so you wouldn't face plant.
Like super positive pressure.
Yeah. The whole roof was like popped out by. They've steamrolled it since then because the whole thing like collapsed like a week after we left.
Oh wow!
But I loved it because we went there. We just got shit face plastered. In Minnesota, they don't give a shit. Like all the fans, they're like tripping over each other in the stands and stuff. They really don't care. So we just had like the time of our lives. And I was like, oh, football's awesome. And then I come home, start watching on TV, and I'm like, man, this sucks. like it's only fun with friends.
Basketball, I don't agree. Basketball, and so like the teenager plays basketball, and I know it's different like at the middle school, high school level, right? But even still, like it's cool to watch the teenager play and like her team and stuff and whatever. But like I'm not watching pro basketball. It's not exciting at all to me. I think it partly because I don't understand the rules or whatever, but basketball's boring.
I think basketball is one of the simpler ones, isn't it? Like rules wise, I think basketball is one of the ones that's somewhat easy to like understand. Football, for some reason, to me, is really fucking complicated. Like, I don't know why either. It doesn't look like it'd be complicated, but it is.
They change the rules every so often, and I feel like every couple years it seems that they are legitimately trying to make it safer for the players and stuff. Because like, dude, they get beat up. Those guys.
Yeah, it's not a long-term career when you decide to be a professional footballer.
Yeah, I mean, unless you're a quarterback, you're probably dipping out at like 35 at the oldest.
Yeah, and all it takes is like one really, really good, well-placed hit, and it's like, dude, career over. Like
what? It reminds me of I think this was a couple years back now, but there was a basketball guy. He was like slated to be super top tier dude, kind of a rookie, right? Real new guy. They throw down, I don't know, some ungodly amount for the contract, and in the first 7 minutes or something of his very first game, he broke his ankle.
Oh my god, really?
Like career ending injury. The guy like,
and he signed a contract though, so they had to like pay his contract out, even though they only got like 7 minutes of play out of him.
Yeah. I'm sure somebody in chat will dig it up as soon as they hear it. But oh man, and it's on the one side, it's like, fuck, that is so sad. But like, it's what it happens, man. One weird hit, one weird step, and you're done.
Yeah, I almost wonder if there's players that kind of like hope that they get hurt just enough that they don't have to play anymore, and they just get like their $50 million contract. They just go home sitting there with their cast on for 6 weeks. And, sorry, man, my Achilles tendon's a little fragile now.
You got to think so there's 11 guys on the field in football. For whatever offense or defense, there's usually 2 sets of 11 people, but there's more than that on the team. There's more than 22 people on the team. Think about the guys who never play. They're still making millions of dollars, and they don't ever play. Or they'll play in something that doesn't matter. You don't even know their name. Like, who the hell is that guy all the way on the left-hand side who is just blocking for no reason because the big guy got hurt? And they're still making millions.
So you just got to be. So what you're saying is you just got to be good enough to be better than the worst, but not good enough to actually be played unless they have to play you. And then you just get to be a bench warmer and just sit there and trade stocks and shit while everybody's playing the game.
You got to think, and I imagine it's that way for all the sports. Really, there's going to be people on the team who are good enough to make it to the professional team, but maybe just not good enough to be on the field all the time.
That's an interesting way to look at it. I've never really looked into it, but yeah, you're right, because they have to have backup players, right?
Second, third string kind of, know, the people.
And now they made it more safe. It's more safe now, so it's like not as many people are getting hurt. So there's probably more bench warmers than there was before. Like I bet you when football first started, they everybody played, because like the first 2 quarters, half the team was wiped out, and like in the locker room, like getting bones reset and shit. But but now it's like they're just sitting there with their iPhones or whatever, like talking to their girlfriends and everything. Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. Hey, Geek Moto, thank you for that $5 super chat. He said, "Morning, Jerry. How you feeling today? I am sick for the 3rd time in a row. I shit you not. It's not the virus, not to be spoken of. We can't say that one anymore. YouTube has banned the use of that word.
Yeah, man, we can't even. It's like hard to even dance around it, right? Like,
yeah, you can't. You have to just say like,
I don't know. I'm just sick with the. I like the one that was going around. I think Gamers Nexus was saying the human malware.
Yes, human malware. That is actually a really good one. Yeah, that was Steve. Steve came up with that one, and I think it actually worked. And he didn't get the WHO ad underneath the video, because you guys will notice like the one Tech Talk where we talked about it and we actually named it in the title or spoke it in the show. Both of them have WHO ads underneath the video now, and all the other ads have been removed. And now in those videos got like less than a quarter of the viewership of all the other Tech Talks. Rough. So you could tell that they were like pulling it out of SEO and pulling it out of search, because they want to focus people on just the mainstream media stuff when it comes to that. And they even told me, they responded to me on Twitter and said that that's exactly what's going on, and they confirmed like everything that I thought. So I thought I was going crazy for a second. Geekmoto said, I'm prepped for if you need to hole up. Wait. I am prepped for if I need to hole up my apartment with a month's worth of MREs. There you go, man. Whoa. Prepper mentality. We got a prepper here. What's up, Mopar W?
I always thought it'd be fun to try it. So like at Winco or Costco, they got those like, it's like a bucket of survival food, and it's supposed to last like 30 days or something.
I have one.
I've been very curious. I'm like, that's all I'm eating. I want to just eat only that.
You'll probably die of like hardened arteries and like and high blood pressure by the end of the month, because it's all like high sodium, like shelf stable stuff.
It's gotta be.
It's probably pretty good though. I mean, I know the one I bought had it has like dehydrated mashed potatoes, dehydrated vegetables. It's basically just big packs of like dehydrated things, and then you basically just mix them with water and heat, and you've got yourself like stews, and you can make like sandwiches and stuff. I think there's even some dehydrated like jerky and stuff in there. But you got to imagine they make that stuff stable, and they guarantee it for like 2 years in that pail, and that's their guarantee. It's like, so if they're guaranteeing 2 years, you know that shit's like good for like 10-20 years if you put it in a dry spot. It's crazy.
Wow, that's cool.
Hey, I did show how to make hand sanitizer. Did you see that on the last?
No, I've seen a few recipes going around though. It's basically isopropyl and like aloe vera.
Dude, you nailed it, man. Look at this guy. He knows his stuff. He knows about like spider zombies or ant zombies.
I read a lot of like headlines and what's the little blurb that comes right underneath the headline called? It's not the byline, but the it's like above the fold, right? I read a lot of that kind of stuff.
Oh, okay. Tell me this: are you with that massive beard of yours? Do you still actually get a physical newspaper and like sit back and look at it, or do you still use the okay? You're in the technical age. Okay, I just want to make sure, because that beard sometimes makes me feel like you're a time traveler sent back from the future to remind us that technology is gonna be our undoing.
Oh man,
the Budweiser flu. Yeah, Colin, that's what I have. Hey, Naota, you want to pick up Naota? Oh, of course that comment's for me. Sorry.
Morning, Jerry. Love the new Tech Talk. I'm listening to the stream while I try to figure out how to create a Python script using Selenium to automate a task. JavaScript generated HTML is causing issues.
Okay, well, first of all, I don't know Python, but Python is on my list of languages to learn, because that's the one that got away. That's the language that I really, really have wanted to learn that I haven't. To be honest, I've only looked at a couple Python scripts, so I even have a really vague idea of like what the syntax and the rules are to the language. Selenium I've heard of. I've never used it though, so I have no idea what you're doing with there. JavaScript to generate HTML. Wait, JavaScript generated HTML is causing issues. So you're doing like procedurally generated HTML using like client-side JavaScript?
Yeah, it sounds like the JavaScript is creating some part of the JavaScript's creating the actual like HTML layout, and then that's borking the Python script.
Weird. I wonder where he's using the Python at, because I don't think you can't run Python client side. So this has got to be something on the back end that's generating the thing that's being pushed to the user. So I don't know what Selenium is though. I need to go look that up. I've heard of it. I've heard of Selenium. I've never used it. I want to know what the hell Selenium is.
It sounds like something that's going to power my spaceship.
It's a Greek goddess. Okay, so we know that much of it.
Hey.
Apparently, it's a nutrient too. So benefits, uses, and side effects of taking selenium.
Okay,
so this is one of those things. Okay, so you're gonna have to tell us, Neota. You're gonna have to tell us what selenium is.
For another $10.
Yeah, it's very.
I'm just kidding.
No. Do it. I'm just kidding. Here, let's see. What is it? So selenium. I want to know. Selenium. Is it a Python thing? Like, okay, Selenium is an open source web based. Oh, it's an automation tool. Derp. He kind of gave us a clue to that, didn't he? In the message. Okay, so yeah, it looks like it's a tool for like automating things, possibly the creation. Oh yeah, the first example I opened up is actually doing exactly what he's doing. Let's see. So Python language is used for Selenium for testing. Okay, so Selenium uses Python as its language, and you're using that to automate and test the thing that's the JavaScript making the HTML that's going to the client or something along those lines.
Oh, so I had a gut feeling, even though I'm unfamiliar with the Python side, because I had similar issues with JavaScript and HTML calls and things like that with mobile development. It sounds like, and I could be way off base here, but it sounds like the automation tool is activating or trying to do its work shortly before the actual HTML elements exist.
Well, that's interesting. I know that can happen.
The errors that you're getting, that could be super wrong, because that would happen. You would try to run. This was all still just in JavaScript. The script would try to pull variables out of input boxes and stuff that don't exist yet. And it could just be a matter of certain lines in the code are either being called too soon or are just out of order.
I know back when I used to do a lot of web development, there'd be all kinds of timing issues related to JavaScript, even when we were doing like C# with ASP.NET running on the server side, and then it would generate all the HTML that it was pushing down to the client. We'd run into all kinds of weird timing issues where it'd be on the client side, it couldn't access the element, or it would blow up in HTML, and you'd have to hit F11, jump into the debugger, and it'd be like, oh, couldn't find this element or couldn't find this thing, and it's because we're still waiting for like the server to push it down. Because the browser renders stuff as it comes in. It doesn't render it as a whole. It doesn't just grab a chunk and render it. You can literally keep the HTML stream open and just keep dumping stuff to the browser to make it do new things and to override old tags and stuff like that. It's actually one of the reasons people really like using HTML and JavaScript, because you can continuously push a stream to the user. So you can override the functions, you can override the CSS, you can override the HTML. So you could literally have a living page with moving elements and everything. I mean, HTML5 is pretty much what they call it now.
Dude.
But normally you'd have like client-side JavaScript driving all that movement of elements and stuff. But you can theoretically just leave the HTML stream open and just keep dumping more and more HTML to override the previous HTML in the browser, and it'll just keep basically cumulatively building it into its web page that's in memory. And I mean, there's obviously a boundary to that eventually that you hit, but it still works. The source shows now is HTML, but it shows the JavaScript calls.
Right.
Well, it should. It should show the JavaScript calls. Is it saying that they're successful?
Because the JavaScript calls are what's actually in the HTML file. Like that's or not local, but that's what's in the file that it's grabbing from your web server. It's what those calls don't actually do anything until they're loaded by the browser. That I think that's what Jerry was getting at, is that with the JavaScript generating stuff, it isn't actually going to do anything until it's all pulled in. Yeah. And your automative tasks might be trying to do stuff before that's happening.
Yeah, no, I think you nailed it. It's probably a timing issue of some kind. I've never used Selenium though, and I think it's weird that like, okay, Selenium's powered by Python, but it's there to automate
there are checks and
HTML and
balances,
JavaScript.
too.
What's that?
Like you can. I don't know, maybe not. I don't know how the Python and Selenium thing works, but I know, at least from my own testing, you can check. You can check to make sure that the element you expect is to be there is there. Before running any code against it. That's just good practice anyway.
I'm actually really surprised that most browsers don't like pause the execution of JavaScript until it's relatively sure. Well, how would it know it's sure though? Because it could still be pushing down new elements from the web server, like in blocks as it's processing. That's why you see some web pages like Facebook load one stage and then another stage and then another stage comes in. It's because they don't want you sitting there with a pinwheel with no activity for like 30 seconds. No, that actually makes sense. Hey Nick, thank you for that $5 chip. He said, "What's the most difficult programming language you've had to deal with?" For me, it was Clojure. I've never even heard of Clojure.
Assembly.
Yeah, I've never gotten Clojure before. Clojure, what is this? No, I can tell you probably the hardest. What's that?
I hated working in assembly.
Oh my god, I was gonna say the same thing. Assembly is definitely. Here's the funny thing though: is assembly. It's okay. This is the weird thing though. Is he said the most difficult programming language that you've ever had to deal with. The thing is, assembly is brutally simple, but that's why it's so hard.
Yeah,
its simplicity is literally what makes it so difficult. Because like in assembly, you have about 5 or 6 functions that you use regularly. That's it. That's like the language, like 5 or 6 functions. Then there's a whole bunch of extension functions that you use for like other stuff, right? You basically move memory. You push things into registers and you pop them out of registers. So basically, you're just telling the CPU, punch in these numbers into these little pieces of memory, and then go ahead and trigger this register, and then that's going to cause this other register to combine the values that are in these 2 registers. And registers are basically just really simple variables, right? You store the data in them, you tickle the processor where you want it, and it takes those registers and then processes them into a new value. It's basically, but the problem is to get anything meaningful out of assembly takes a fuckload of programming. Like even just to do hello world, I think the simplest form of hello world is like 10 or 20 lines of assembly, and you still have to assume that you're in some kind of a mode where it can display the text characters or whatever. You're not in a graphical. If you want to do it in a graphical mode, fucking forget about it. Like it's so difficult.
We just programmed LEDs. It was like an 8-section LED, and that was enough because it's enough for 1 byte. Each LED could be assigned to one. It was like a little programmable chip thing, and then it touched to a little LED board, and so each bit could be assigned to an LED, and then we were just basically turning on or off the LED.
Yep.
And, I tried. I actually had my professor had an 8-section LED block, right? Like you see on like an old school.
Like a vacuum form display that's got like the letters and numbers.
So you could do like an 8 or whatever.
I have one of those actually.
And I actually, man, it took me forever. I tried so hard to actually get it to spell out a word for my project, but I had misunderstood the counting of the LEDs, and so it just came out as a bunch of like scrambles and stuff.
Right, because if you're off by like 1 bit, it just looks like garbage.
It was so hard. It was so hard I think it was just a misunderstanding of the documentation.
Probably. I've done some integrated. I'll tell you about my VFD story here in just a second. Old Nerd Gamer, thank you for that $20. That is beyond generous, my friend. I appreciate it. Sean Brunsick, thank you for joining as a new member of the channel. Make sure you check out the community feed because everybody keeps joining as members and like wondering where the member only stuff is. It's under the community feed. You have to go under community feed and select member only. I don't know why YouTube makes it such a weird thing. I think YouTube YouTube likes to copy every other platform's features and like integrate them with like literally a 15-minute meeting and not understanding like how to use it or anything like that. So here, let me tell you, AuxxZillary, let me tell you about my experience with vacuum form displays. Do you remember Vetco Electronics?
No.
So there's a place in Bellevue called Vetco Electronics. It was basically like Radio Shack on like black tar heroin. It was like it was the biggest like of a single electronic store that you could go to in Washington State. You could literally just aisles after aisles after aisles, about half the size of Fry's Electronics, but it's all components. Like you don't go there to buy like finished things. You just go there to buy like every component.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's basically like the Chinese markets, but here in the United States. Unfortunately, they closed down a couple of years ago, which I was really sad about.
I'm on their website right now.
Well, no, they closed their store though. Their store.
No.
Wait, their store's back?
Yeah,
No.
12718 North of Way, Bellevue. Multi-story shop with electronic audiovisual equipment.
And
Yeah,
it's, dude,
it's in Bellevue.
they must have
It's
reopened.
open right now. It closes at 4 p.m.
Oh my God, dude. Me and you got to do a trip. Holy crap. Let me see. I want to see if they moved. Because no, I'm not even joking. I've been so sad since this place closed in downtown Bellevue. I wonder if they just moved.
Maybe not downtown anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, they must have moved. So, anyways, you can buy all the components from this store. So I went in there and I built a car PC. Like for my old Corolla that I had a car PC where it was like Xenarc 7-inch touchscreen,
Nice.
fiberglassed into the dashboard, a full ATX computer with a custom slide-in case that was upholstered in the trunk. I mean, I went big on this thing. Well, I got 90% of the stuff to build it from Vetco Electronics, like all the wires, all the fuses, all the relays, all the integrated circuits, all the stuff I needed. Cool. Well, the one thing I could never get integrated into it, and I tried like everything, was this freaking vacuum form display that I bought for like $40, and it's a beautiful one. It's like the last generation of VFD, so it's like super super bright. You can see it in like broad sunlight. That's why I wanted it for the car. And it's about yay big. I was gonna basically put it into the center console of my car and have it just like read the song that's currently playing or my current GPS. I was basically gonna have it just rotate data out of WMI and stuff from the Windows XP PC that I was running on it.
Yeah.
So what I ended up doing for this vacuum form display is I went online and I found what do they call it? The Orange Book, I think they call it, which is basically like all of the documentation on the timings and everything on how this thing's programmed and how to make it work. When you plugged it into power, you'd get a faint glow, and that was it. I couldn't get anything to show up on the screen ever. So I'm looking at it, and the only way to get it to work, and keep in mind, this is before like Arduino and Raspberry Pi and all this shit like hit the market and people were using it. So my options were to get information from the PC to it was to write a custom driver that would talk to it over a 9-pin serial port. But it had no serial controller. So there's no serial controller on it. So basically I had to program a fake serial controller. And the most that I ever got it to display was an asterisk. I could get it to display one asterisk. And because it was really tight timing on this. You basically had to put power to one pin on it. So through the serial port, I'd basically raise the power to like 5 volts on one of the pins. And then another pin you'd have to pulse. It's so many millisecond pulse widths like Morse code to tell it what position character you want, what character it needs to be, and like how bright it is or something like that. And you had to do this on each cycle, and if you got out of sync even slightly with it, which my code would add timing to it. You have to, like, how do you write a software driver that doesn't introduce some kind of timing issue? If you were off even by a gnat's ass, the thing would just fucking bugger out and just erase the display and start over. So I still have it today in a box somewhere, and I was just thinking to myself, the Raspberry Pis and the Arduinos now all have digital pin headers that are completely like you can set the timing on these headers externally. So even if the program's like slow, you can execute, a timed what do they call it? A pulse width, right? You can pulse width modulate the thing without having timing issues that would be introduced by software. So I didn't even think about that. I should bust that sucker out because I know exactly where it is. It's in my attic. I should bust that out, hook it up to like one of my old Raspberry Pis that I have that's just sitting in my Tinker drawer, and see if I can get that thing to actually display stuff. Because then I could 3D print a little case and put it on my desk and just have it show like telemetry for my computer. How cool would that be? Be like a little stock ticker. Let's see here. Dave, thank you for the $5 tip. He said, oh, this is for you. He said, hello, Professor Beard and Jerry. How goes the weekend so far? I guess it was for both of us. You go first. How's your weekend going there, boss?
It's pretty good so far, yeah.
Pretty good? Pretty good? Nothing to complain about?
Yeah.
Woke up.
Hey,
Lowered expectations.
Can't complain after that, man.
I did wake up too, so now I feel bad complaining about anything, but I am on my third time being sick in 2 weeks. No, it's not the thing. It's not the, what's it called? Human malware.
Yeah.
It's not the human malware that's going around, because I have no fever and I don't have any symptoms in my lungs themselves. They're all upper respiratory, throat, ears, eyes, nose. But just to give you an idea of how frustrated I was when I woke up this morning, bless you. This is how frustrated I was when I woke up this morning. I wake up and my eyes are kind of like sticky, and I'm like, oh god, what? I go in the bathroom and I look and I just have goobers coming out my eye ducts, and so I wipe them out and then I go to blow my nose and it literally just goes like string cheese. It's so gross, dude. It's so gross.
That's so nasty.
So I took some Mucinex D and chugged a bunch of water, and so the Mucinex D helped a lot. Like that's why we're still streaming right now. But I was so pissed because I literally have been sick. This is my third time now with respiratory crap in the last 2 weeks. Because 2 weeks ago, I got it for my son. He brought it home from school. He was sick for one day. I was sick for like 3 or 4 days. Then I had one day where I wasn't sick and I felt okay. So I spent that whole day resting, thinking, okay, I'm gonna get ahead of this, so that if anything else, if the human malware shows up, I'm good to go. Then I get sick again, and I'm like, okay, I probably got the human malware this time because my inner ear's hurting and stuff. And then I go look, that's not a symptom. So I'm like, okay, woo, no fever. And then yesterday I started being sick again. After one day off again, I started feeling sick yesterday. I go to sleep last night feeling just a little bit sick, and I wake up this morning with literally like cheese curds coming out of my eye ducts. And I'm like, God, again? Like, how many freaking viruses are floating around right now? Like, I don't even know. Like, I thought once you got sick, you're supposed to have antibodies, and it doesn't happen again. 3 in a row. This has got to be a record for me.
Yeah.
But luckily, none of them have been the human malware, so that's what I'm really thankful for. I don't care as long as I can take Mucinex D and I have access to decongestants and stuff. I don't really mind like being sick. It's not the end of the world for me, even though ask Miss Barnacules and she'll say that I just whine and complain all the time, which I do. I'm a man. It's my job when I'm sick. But it's like I just don't want the human malware. No human malware. Yeah. Like everything else is fine. Just keep the human malware the hell away from me. But that's how my weekend's going. I hope your weekend's going better. Thea said, why do you always talk about gross stuff while I'm eating? Well, everybody's always eating. I don't even know how many people are in here, but I'm going to assume out of the 393 people that are currently watching, there's at least a dozen or so people that are eating right now at any given time. So when I talk about the butt stuff, and the nose stuff and the eye stuff, it's going to happen when people are eating. I mean, it's going to happen.
Yeah, what are you doing eating while we talk about gross stuff?
Oh, it just happens. That's weird. Dave just typed LUL. Just LUL. And it literally thought that was a monitored message that should be held back for review.
Yeah, I wonder why.
What the hell, YouTube? That was weird. I've seen some questionable decisions on the automation, but I've never seen LUL blocked. C. Mopar said, dang it, I was just about to grab some cheese curds to snack on. Thanks. Get them, C. Mopar. Get them cheese curds.
Squeaky cheese curds are so good. The squeaky cheese.
So I don't know if you guys heard AuxxZillary earlier, but if you want to make your own hand sanitizer, and you don't want to spend $390 per 8 ounces. I decided to make some myself and just try it, so I could be a little bit of a test subject, and it actually worked really good. It actually made my hands super soft. It didn't burn at all, and all I used was 60% isopropyl alcohol, 99%. You can use 91% too, even at the 60%. You want to use 3/4 of a cup of this to 1 cup of aloe vera gel.
Yeah.
And I had stuff that had lidocaine in it, so it was a little questionable. But even with the lidocaine, I didn't notice any numbing on my hands or anything because you're using such a small amount of it. But it works. It works. It didn't dry out my hands. My hands felt really soft afterwards. So, nice. I mean, this is. I wouldn't put it in a foaming bottle like I did because it doesn't foam. Turns out alcohol doesn't foam. We learned that from the experiment. But the aloe knocks down the burning smell from the alcohol, so it doesn't doesn't smell particularly bad. It doesn't dry super fast, which is the thing. If you just put alcohol directly on your skin, it just flashes off. The aloe keeps it around long enough to kill something. And so I'm thinking about marketing this. I'm going to put this up on Amazon and start selling it, dude.
Barnacules.
Yeah, only $250 a bottle. Undercutting the competition.
There you go.
Speaking of which, this is a topic I wanted to talk about because I was just watching it last night and I was like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? So... So I think I might have put it in the topic. We'll have to. I don't know if it actually went in or not. But I want to talk about Amazon third-party sellers. This is something that I didn't know last night when I was watching this. Is that there are a lot of third-party sellers. Then they're even YouTubing this stuff, which I think is hilariously scary. When you buy stuff off Amazon from a third-party seller, there is a good chance that it's coming out of a dumpster somewhere.
Hey.
So whatever. Yeah, this is crazy. So I'm watching this news story last night, and then I led to a couple of other videos that were related. And basically, there's these groups of people out there that go dumpster diving behind stores like Trader Joe's, Safeway, Albertsons, and they pull out all the products that still are sealed in packages. And then what they do is they take them home and they clean them up. And they, not even caring why they got thrown out. Maybe they got thrown out because of a recall. It was a bad batch. You don't know, right? They take it home, they clean. These are food products and cosmetic products and like things you'd find at a grocery store, but they also do it for electronics too, which I'm not too worried about. If you find something that works in a dumpster and you sell it, hey, power to you. Somebody wants that. But I couldn't believe that they were like taking like bottles of ketchup Like
Wow.
they'd find like 20 bottles of ketchup and they'd pull it out and they'd wipe it down with like a wet cloth to get all the other garbage that was sticking to the
Yeah.
bottle and stuff. And then they'd take the like, you know, the 8 that look new and the 2 that don't. And they'd keep the 2 that don't, and then they'd take the 8 and they'd put them up on their Amazon stores as third party, like ketchup. They wouldn't say it was used. They'd market it as a brand new product, and people would be like, reviews 4 stars, 5 stars. Oh my god, my product's amazing.
I mean, okay, so back when I lived in the U district, this was, geez, many years ago.
You look like you've lived in the U district.
So I hung around with a group of folk that I like to call neo hippies, and I say that with nothing but love and respect for these people. They were a cool group of people, and they some of the most loving and accepting and open people I've ever spent time with. It was super cool, and they would do that. They would not on Amazon. They wouldn't be selling it on Amazon, but they would.
For themselves, though, right?
Yeah, dumpster dive. Like there's a company in Seattle called Theo Chocolates, right?
Okay.
They will just dump weird, like if a block of chocolate doesn't come out quite right, or it's like over hardened or whatever, they'll just throw that shit away.
Yeah.
And they have specific cans for different products and stuff, or like there's a difference between garbage and like failed product, and
so they're doing it the right way. But like Trader Joe's, I was watching this thing where the news crew actually went behind Trader Joe's themselves, and they wanted to see if this was real, so they dumpster dived their own products, and it was just in there with everything else. Now granted, they were sealed in bags, so like usually you'd open a bag and there'd be a bunch of new looking product in there, but there'd be a bunch of garbage on the outside. I want to be clear though, I don't mind dumpster diving for personal gain. Like, I even told a story a couple of times that when I grew up, we used to live next to the Nally's factory. Do you remember Nally's? Like the guys that make like all the chips and dips and stuff? Well, we lived right next to the Nally's factory. So what we do is once a month, my mom had a friend that worked there for a short period of time that knew their schedule, when they threw the stuff out and how long it took for the truck to come and get it. So what they do is every Friday night, they would take all the basically stuff that just expired. That day, because stores, if they don't sell it, what they do is they return it to Nally's. And then what Nally's does is they throw it in the bin out back behind their store, and then the garbage truck just comes and picks it up and takes it off to the landfill, which is like a huge waste, right? And this is like brand new, clean product. They only put it in these bins. I don't know why they separate out from the garbage, but they do for whatever reason. And so what my mom and dad used to do is they just leave me and my sister home. They'd disappear for an hour, and they'd come back with a truckload. Like, it'd fill up every couch in our living room and everything, which is bags of chips, dips, and everything, and they would just give them to their friends, and everybody would come over on Saturday, and we'd all have a big feast and everything. And we did that for about 6 months before they got caught. And they got caught doing it, and the cops showed up, and they said, you can't do this anymore. And so my parents, you know, being the law-abiding citizens that they are, decided to come home and rip the bong a couple times. And they went back again the next week, and they didn't get caught, but then they went back and they looked inside of the bin, and everything was crushed. So they literally started running all the product through their compressor or whatever, their compactor, before they were throwing it in the garbage, so we couldn't have any more free food anymore. But we got away with that for a good 6 or 8 months, where once every week we'd go and get the stuff, and it was more than any one family could eat. Like, we'd literally just give it to all our friends, everything. So I think dumpster diving's okay.
Yeah. I mean, like, you can get up like basically day old bread and stuff. Safeway will throw that shit away. It's you know, but the selling it kind of thing is a little, especially food product.
The food is what I'm most worried about here, not anything else. Because I'm like, if a store's throwing out food,
I don't agree with selling food product.
Like, I don't care if it's like, if you found like an Amiga computer at a Goodwill or something like that, and you want to like flip that shit, do it. Like, absolutely do it. That's a viable market. My concern here was that it was like food and cosmetics, like things you eat and ingest and things that you put on your skin. And it's like these people are literally just like pulling it out of a bin and not questioning why it was there. Like, it might not even be because it was expired. It might have been like a bad batch code. The company might have told them to throw out that batch because there was something wrong with it. Too many customers returned it or something like that. But I was just shocked to see that there were so many people doing that. Like, this isn't just a few people. They were saying that it's like there is a very large percentage of sellers on Amazon that do this dumpster diving tactic. And let's see. Hold on. Mr. Texas said, I'm a third-party seller, and I sell cheap stuff I find at thrift stores and Goodwill. Yeah, see, I think that's great. I think I mean, you're literally just becoming a thrift store yourself on Amazon.
Highly recommend of anybody doing that. Like that is a legit thing to do. Find seriously, go through like if actually Jerry, it'd be fun to do something like that with you. Is
It
we
would.
should hit up like a Kirkland Goodwill or a Bellevue Goodwill, like one of the higher end like thrift shops around in the fancier places, and
It's a good idea.
I bet we could turn a good profit.
Like do
I've
a
been
YouTube video and see how many things we can find. Like have a limit, like $50 or something like that. Go buy
yeah
$50 worth
yeah
of stuff and see how much money we can turn it into in eBay in like
I
a
would
week.
love to do that. I think that would be awesome.
I am
Um,
100% down to do that.
I flipped a Hot Wheels thing I bought from Goodwill for $10. I didn't try real hard to sell it, but I did end up selling it for 15. So I made a $5 profit, but it took like I didn't because I wasn't really hard about trying to get rid of the thing. It did take me like 6 months, so you know, but it's a legit, man. You go out there, there's an app on your phone that will run barcodes, and you can see what products are selling for on eBay and Amazon.
They showed that
And
in this thing I watched last night. They were doing it. They were like, doot, doot, just picking stuff up out of the
yeah,
bin and like throwing it aside if it ain't worth nothing.
you can either buy a Bluetooth. You can actually buy a Bluetooth barcode scanner, like a gun, or there are apps that will use your camera and scan the barcode that way. It'll even run the search for you. It'll run the UPC code and will bring up eBay listings and stuff,
That's badass.
just like that.
That is
It's
badass,
cool.
man.
It's a super cool thing to do that.
We're doing that, man. Once the human malware thing slows down a little bit, let's do that. Let's go to the like gentrified areas in Seattle.
If I was more motivated, look, I have. You can see right there. That's two Z370 boards right there that are perfectly good. I updated the BIOSes and everything on them. I'm just lazy and I get distracted and I don't try to sell this shit.
I'm in the same
That's
boat.
probably $200-300 right there.
Yeah, and like me, I've got a box full of cell phones, like 10 cell phones or something over here that I'm sure a lot of them still have some kind of value to somebody. But that's just it. No, that you can make a good living. Like the people on the show that were like bragging about it, and they were proud of themselves. Like they're like, man, we make a good living by like reselling what people throw away. And I'm like, I'm not against that. Like I'm not against that. I just think it's weird that like these stores are not like saying that they're getting it out of a dumpster when it's food. Like that's my only concern here. Everything else, game on, right? If you can find like a dumpster full of like old IBM equipment from the 60s or something like that, and you want to loot that sumbitch and put it up on eBay, absolutely do it. I don't want to buy a bottle of ketchup on Amazon thinking it's coming from Heinz, and it's actually coming from like the dumpster that like 15 other people like picked through before and got touched and smeared on, and it's all nasty and got like a toilet paper like wet toilet paper pushed up against it, and they're just like wiping it off with a little Windex and trying to make it look new again. I'm like, oh, I don't want that. I don't want that. No. Hey, Breaker19, thank you for that $5 tip earlier. Sorry, I didn't get around to that yet. He said, would it be hard for a 40-year-old to learn how to code, not just some BS Android app?
No.
I think anybody can learn to code. Anybody.
Yeah.
There's like a language for everybody too. That's the thing is, like, you can decide what your pain point is for entry. Hell, you can, like, if you use Unity, like you want to make games and stuff, you can drag and drop an entire game writing like maybe 100 lines of code, like for a decent game for a mobile device or for your TV, or if you want to write like applications, it's even easier in a lot of respects. There's so much information online. Don't ever think you're too old. Like there was a guy I worked with at Microsoft. I wish I could remember his name. He was 65 years old when Microsoft hired him. And it was because he had like a degree, like he had a degree in some theoretical thing that helped him develop something. And I wish Jim, his name was Jim. And he was 65 years old, and he told me that he learned how to code at Microsoft during his first year. He'd never coded in his entire life. His entire life was in this theoretical mathematics, but he never got into the computer side of it.
That's sick.
Yeah, and he learned how to program in like 2 years, but because he was just so passionate about it and he wanted to see like the fruits of his mathematical labor in this project, he wanted to be involved in it, not just as an architect, but as somebody who's actually on the ground and developing and checking this stuff. He learned how to program, and I won't say that after 2 years he was like a rock star programmer. He was still relatively primitive in how he was programming and stuff, but he understood how it worked and he knew enough to implement what he knew. And I was like, that's pretty badass, because you're making stuff that like nobody else is, because you're the only person that's got the information in your head. You know,
there are so many resources out there on YouTube for free. If you're looking for something more structured, I would look into like Treehouse or
I never heard of Treehouse.
I did a few of their stuff. I guess I don't.
What's Apple's new shiny like point and click language? Swift.
Swift.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
you know what? I'd check out Swift, honestly. It's not super cross-platform. I think it's pretty much Mac-specific from last I looked at it. But I've heard that Swift is incredibly easy to develop in. Like, for application development, even. Like, Swift is just, like... Apple wanted to make it as easy as possible to develop on their platform, both mobile and on their PC. But I just don't think it's as portable. But if you wanted to learn a language that's really, really portable, relatively easy to use, I like C#, especially when you're using VisualStudio.net, because it literally holds onto your Peter through the whole thing. And debugging is easy. Visual Studio makes everything about C# easy. Now, if you were doing it in like a text editor and compiling it from the command line, okay, it's a little bit more complicated. But through Visual Studio, I'd say C# is probably the best language to learn for cross-platform portability. It's a high enough level language that you're not writing a million lines of code just to manage your memory and to tickle the CPU. That's what I like about it. Are you talking to somebody in chat?
Oh, this is Jerry. How hard would it be to code an MMORPG in Unity? And I'm thinking as hard as you want to make it.
Yeah, that's true. Like if you want to go like the World of Warcraft like method, it's gonna be hard. He's being hailed. Hail to the chief.
That was my brother.
Oh, tell him I said hi. So anyways, if you want to program World of Warcraft, it's gonna be hard. Okay, it's gonna be hard. If you want to program like a text-based adventure game, like you want to do it text-based and even multiplayer, that stuff's like really easy to do in Unity. Like Unity actually makes all that stuff super easy.
It's going to be on how complicated you want to make it. Like if you're going to try and replicate World of Warcraft, it's going to be hard as fuck. But if you want to do something like I literally Googled MMO made in Unity, and it looks like Realm of the Mad God was made in Unity.
A lot of them are nowadays. Like Unity and Unreal like rule like 90% of the market.
I guarantee I feel this to the core of my being that there is a some sort of plugin or something available for Unity where you just go boop, you install this thing, and it's as easy as just drag and drop. Unity is so but it's not going to be World of Warcraft, It's not going to be, Final Fantasy 15. It's going to be, something like the original Zelda but multiplayer or something.
Actually, I saw there's video. Do a search for like speed game building on YouTube. There's like these guys that do contests where they make a game in like 1 or 3 days. And some of the games these guys create are fucking insane. Like one guy created a game where it's like you have like bullet time and you're like these 3D stick figures that are like jumping and bouncing off walls with physics and stuff, because Unity does all that for you. Like in Unity, you don't have to understand physics. You don't have to understand like the cosine and the tangent, and the sine of everything to figure out your 3D math and everything. Everything's all done for you. You basically just say, I want the camera to look in this direction. And if you want it to follow the player, you say camera follow the player. If you want that you want to mash into something and have it like hit you back, you just tell it what the physical properties of the material are and how fast it's moving at you, and it just does it all for you. And so I wrote basically RC Pro-Am in like 3 hours. It wasn't as good as RC Pro-Am, but I did. I just said, take a big image of a racetrack that I found on Google Images or Bing Images. I just took a big picture of like a racetrack that somebody had drawn, and I just put it in there, and then I turned it to black and white. I created a mask, and I said everywhere where it's black is a solid wall. And then I put in the material density of the wall, and how like so basically you have an outline, a black outline of the track. And I say that that's the wall of the track, and I want the material density to be this much. And then I took a picture of a car. I dropped a car in there. I drug and drop it in there, and I literally just mapped the controls of forward arrow to accelerate in the X direction, or no, it's in the X, like X or Y direction. And then when you turn the car, it automatically did all the math for it to go. I just basically said, I want this to move forward when I push on this and keep accelerating at this rate and this speed. And here's the mass of the car. So if you crashed into the wall, it would like bean off the wall with physics and everything. It took me like 3 hours just kind of tinkering around to fine tune it. But I actually made a racing game where you could drive around, and I even put tires on the track that if you hit the tires would actually like bump out of the way and the car would kind of like bounce off of them. And I was like, dude, I cannot believe I built something like this. Like Nintendo games were less complicated than what I just made in 3 hours. So highly recommend Unity if you're doing stuff 2D and 3D. If you want to do something that's like, okay, once you master Unity, Unreal is probably the next step. Some people will say Unity and Unreal are kind of on par with each other, but I disagree with that. The Unreal engine is much, much higher performing. Like Unity's got a
Free.
lot of performance stuff in it. Yeah, but Unreal kicks its ass in the performance. So if you want to make
sure.
stuff like Doom, like you want to make like Doom and Quake and stuff like that, yeah, do that in Unreal. But if you want to, Unity's awesome though. Unity's awesome. Check it out.
Yeah. I've always had in the back of my head. I'm gonna post a link here in the chat. Always had in the back of my head of wanting to do a mobile version of this old game.
Realm server? I've heard of that actually.
The full game is called The Realm Online. It's like one of the very early MMOs.
This is like Sierra Online graphics.
It was actually done by Sierra Online originally.
Oh my God. Dude, your graphics can look so familiar that you can pinpoint it to the company. Because I was thinking this looks like Black Cauldron. This literally reminds me of like Black Cauldron.
Exactly. And it is super simple, and I feel, and it's changed hands a few times over the decades. And I have high hopes for the company who owns it now. They want to upscale it because like it's still in 640 by 480. Like you'll play it in a little box, an unadjustable.
Oh, okay. Yep.
They're working on upscaling it so that it looks better at 1080p. They eventually want to do like a mobile version and things like that.
What language is it written in?
Something ungodly, I'm sure. It was originally released in like 1995. So
this is like straight up like C++ and like ANSI standard libraries, and they're doing their own GDI calls and stuff. You know how easy this game would be to make in Unity, though? You could literally make this game in Unity probably in like 2 weeks by yourself if you had the graphic assets.
I bet, yeah, and even online, because it's basically it's really just a graphical chat room. Like, let's be real, with some combat tossed in. But like,
there's 196 players live right now.
Yeah. I've been playing a little bit in my free time just for the nostalgia, and I've seen it upwards of 250 actually.
Okay. Is it free to play?
It is.
Dude, we have almost 500 viewers right now. If you guys all went and played this, you would triple their user base.
Hey, I would love it. Come, everybody jump in on this. It's super simple.
By the way, we're not sponsored. I didn't even know this existed until minutes ago, but I just like the idea of supporting something that's free. Sorry about the lag on Discord. It's like it's quite a bit more than usual today. That's why we keep bumping into each other. I have some software to solve this though, hopefully next week. I forget what it's called, but John, he was going to join us today, but he didn't get back to me in time. So we'll get him in on the next one. But he showed me some software that he uses to stream that allows you to basically pull the chat people right into the software, and it's zero lag AV, and it's right into the compositing, and then everybody can see what's being composited like live through this software and through a web page. So I'm gonna get that set up hopefully by next week. It's a pay software though, so I'm hoping they'll give me a license so that we don't just use it for a month, get addicted to it, and then don't want to pay them like $1 million. Cool. But if that works out well, we should have a near zero lag communication. For some reason, Discord has like really shitty lag that goes all over the place.
But yeah, dude, if you guys actually do make accounts and stuff, there is a paid account. It's like $5 a month now. But you totally don't need to. Everything it has a level 1000 cap. Okay, like this game, but it's super basic, super grindy. There's not a whole lot going on, so don't go into it thinking this is the best thing ever. It is very much from 1995, 1996, super basic stuff. But it's goofy, it's fun. It can sit in a little window in the corner of your screen, and it's like, I don't know. But I would love to see something like this more on mobile. I think it would make a really great, with some tweaks to the UI and a little bit of extra, it would make a great tablet game. People would fucking love playing this on their tablets, I think.
No, this actually looks really cool. I want to play it. But now the problem is, of course, when you download it, you get the Windows smart screen filter going, oh my God, this is not a signed binary. Should you be able to run this?
The MSI thing will freak out. It's like, ah!
Yeah.
But just say, this is okay.
It's all right. I'm just going to trust this random software you pointed me to. Here we go. I just clicked next. It's installing right now.
Basically the same source code from 1995. It's
This
Really
looks dated. Even the installer, like the installer didn't even give me an option to play after it finished installing. It just installed,
Right.
and then it was like nothing.
And it just puts an icon on your desktop, and that's it.
I'm starting it up right now. Here we go. The Realm Online. Oh wow, you're right. It just starts up like a little loader screen. It's like 640, 480. Although they do have a Twitch and a Facebook icon.
Yeah,
So
and a Discord.
All right, so it's okay. So you download it, and then when you run it, it downloads all the assets.
Right.
So it has an installer, and then they download the assets. So that they have a place where they can keep distributing like new updates and new assets and stuff. So I like that.
So after Sierra sold it off to a company called like Valhalla Games or something. It was like a small little family who bought it from Sierra, and they just basically sat on it for a long time. I think they were just kind of like soaking up the subscription fees because they were actually charging 10 or $15 a month for a long time.
Wow. So this was supposed to be like Ultima Online basically, but Sierra's? Okay.
Yeah, kind of. Less detailed, less like involved. Like Ultima had some cool mechanics and things like that, but they basically sat on it. I feel like they didn't really do a whole lot with it. It was I don't know. And then I guess I was kind of looking into it. I guess there was like a sickness in the family, and this company Rat Labs, the guys behind Rat Labs, were actually running a private server for a long time, kind of in the shadows.
Okay.
And the family who Norseman Games, I think is actually what it was called. Yeah, thank you, Roger. It was Norseman Games. Yeah. They had run a Kickstarter for some sickness in the family or whatever, but the guys who were running this private server ended up having some words. They talked with them. They worked out a deal to buy the license for the game, and so now Rat Labs is behind it, and it's still very small, probably 2 or 6 people. But I feel like they're actually going to improve and do more with the game. I mean, just making a free-to-play version is going to help a bunch, and then $5 a month, like that's nothing. Come on, that's a Twitch sub, that's a YouTube sub. Like people drop $5 a month for stupider stuff, and so
Bubba
I feel like I feel like you'll actually see some good stuff over they've had control of it for like a year and a half or 2 years now, so it'll be cool.
Yeah, I'm gonna create an account after the stream because said I need to create an account obviously to log in and play.
Right.
But no, that was actually kind of cool. It downloaded over 3,000 version updates. Like I was watching it when I did the install, and it's like started at like version like 50, and it just counted all the way up to 3,000 downloading packages of updates. So every time they update it, they just rev the version number and push a packet down to everybody. So I kind of like the live update model. That's pretty cool.
They did they've even just in the few little bits that they've had it, they've done some really good stuff. Oh, Roger Kaiser says my kid has the source code for the Realm. He runs a private server. Neat.
Yeah, I want to know what it's programmed in. Like not just the engine that they use, but like the language that it's programmed in. If it's that old, it's got to be like straight up C or C++. Hey, Bubba to Matt, sorry you spent the night in the ER last night with pneumonia. Pneumonia sucks.
Oh, rough,
I get pneumonia every 2 years. That's why I'm scared to death of this human malware that's going around right now. Get some rest. I hope that you don't have the human malware. I hope that you have just the regular malware that's going around.
Feel better soon, dude.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been sick. Like I said, I'm on like my 3rd sickness. I'm hoping that after all these sickness, because my kid's just been like seeding all these sicknesses into the house, because my wife's sick too. She was really sick yesterday. Today she's doing a lot better. Xander woke up this morning and was coughing again, and I'm like, dude, you just got over your sickness like 4 days ago.
Stop it.
I'm like, just knock it off. Just stop. My whole house is just being bombarded by like all these different things. And I'm like, this is not giving me confidence that I'm not going to get the one that I don't want to get. Like, I don't care if I get the flu. I don't care about like if I get bronchitis, I go to the emergency room. Well, actually, I don't have to go to the ER because that's like ground zero. I don't want to go to the place where you're most likely to pick it up, where everybody's going. That's not where I want to go. So I want to avoid that at all costs. Let's see here. Oh, Roger said he can get the source code if you want. Yeah, I want to look at it. I'm really curious.
Yeah, that'd be neat. I'd love to just to look at it. It would be fun.
Because I used to play Ultima Online like a fiend, man, back in the day. Like out of all the MMOs I've played, Ultima Online is probably like I even invested more time in Ultima Online than I ever did in World of Warcraft.
Oh wow,
I loved it, man. I loved it. And then what happened was it started just getting really slow and really kludgy towards the end because they were like retiring a ton of servers, and the demand was like they wanted to kill it, right? It went on for I want to say like 10 or 15 years. And then
Oh,
they
yeah.
started doing the
Oh,
private server thing, but like none of the private servers became really that popular. So it was like, so there's that game is only fun if you're encountering large groups of people like all the time. Like you want to go into a
Right.
town and see like 100 people there. Like otherwise, it's not really that fun. Let's see, what do we got here? Which stream software is the best for live streaming? Well, Toothless DYT. It's good to see you again there, brother. Depends on what you're doing.
Yeah.
You got OBS and OBS Studio, or you got OBS and Streamlabs OBS and Stream Elements that all work well together. Stream Elements actually will work with anything, but Streamlabs OBS and OBS are both free, 100% free. Unless Streamlabs OBS, you pay for their premium product to like get their plugins and stuff like that. But the base software is free. They're really capable live streaming software packages. I'm using Streamlabs OBS for this. For my other show that I do after this in the afternoon and every other day, I use regular OBS just because I already have it all composited and put together. XSplit is a phenomenal software that can actually do quite a few things that OBS can't, but you also have, it's a premium software. You have to pay, I think, $100 a year or something for a license for it. Yeah, so it's a little bit pricey. There's quite a few other options that are like lesser known options. Then there's options that go all the way up to like broadcast level stuff, which is what I'm trying to get us for this show for next week. That will, you know, solve.
What's that? Start with OBS. I would just download regular old boring chunky looking regular OBS Studio, and fuss about with that. There's plenty of tutorials and stuff out there for how to get it all set up. Best though is always an awkward qualifier.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true because it's best depending on what you need.
Yeah.
And but I'll tell you right now, like from my perspective, OBS covers like 99% of anything anybody would want. Like the only reason really to use XSplit, not to say that actually a lot of people don't realize this, but XSplit and OBS are very closely related. They go back and forth a lot helping each other, which I find is really strange because they're like direct competitors. But XSplit actually has quite a few plugins and stuff that allow you to do higher performance game capture, lower lag video transmissions. I'd be able to send you like a stream right from me to you, and you'd be able to see like the live feedback with almost no lag. They got all these features built in for doing stuff like that. But if you don't need that and you have a high performance computer with a good like Nvidia GPU in it or something, something that supports OpenCL, boom, you're fine. Like OBS Studio, you go in there, add your scenes, add your video game. You go use something like Stream Elements, which is absolutely free to do your compositing and all the, you know, like little windows and like the graphics you see down here at the bottom. That's all Stream Elements. And people get Stream Elements and Streamlabs confused a lot. Just because, and I even get them confused, but Streamlabs, all the stuff that Streamlabs OBS makes you pay for, like if you want those features, like to have your themes and have like the pop-ups, like when one of you guys does a super chat and it pops up the animation on the screen and stuff, they charge for that with Streamlabs OBS for like their themes. But Stream Elements just gives all that away. Their theme library is basically free.
And there's plenty of free themes out there. There is. Otherwise as well too. Like Stream Elements is really cool because it's like a web-based overlay, right? You make a browser source, or you can. That's how I do it.
That's how I'm doing the same thing. Yep.
Ridiculous. Yeah, you paste the ridiculous URL as a browser source, and then it's just there.
Yep.
But before that, I had. They were Photoshop files. I had purchased some from Visuals by Impulse, I think it was what it was called, and they give you all the source files and stuff, and you can tweak it and that kind of a deal. And then it's just a photo that you use as a background. But there are plenty of options out there. Lots of stuff out there.
Yeah, actually, that's what I'd say. That's one of the most powerful features in OBS itself. Is in the open broadcaster system is this browser add-on. You basically can just add a scene and go. You can put any web page as the background, and then you can add JavaScript on top of it. So if you want to like make the background of a web page transparent, and you just want to put the contents of the web page over, you can do that. You can also write CSS and JavaScript that'll just take out a segment of a web page. Like say we wanted to like have a stock price showing on the screen. I could go to the stock market's webpage, search for that, pull up the URL where that value is, go into the HTML exactly which tag and ID has that value that I want. And I can go in and create a little JavaScript blurb in the browser element thing that says just cut that one element out and put it here. And then I could put that anywhere I want on the screen and then add CSS to like, you know, or Cascade style sheets to change the font and everything like that. So it gives you pretty much infinite power over like what you can composite over the top of what you're doing. It's really cool. It's really cool.
It says show will be starting shortly at the bottom middle. Oh, it does. The marquee.
Where? Oh, does it?
It does. I just saw it scroll by.
Oh, whoops. I should probably go change that to, let's see. How about we just change it to show is currently in progress right now. Unless you're watching this when it's not live. Then it's not live. There we go. Okay, did that work? I think that fixed it. Let me see if I can get it to... There you go. Thank you for pointing that out. I'm surprised it took somebody that long to find it. Usually people are on it and they're like, oh, I got you. I got you. Let's see. What's going on over in chat? If you guys have any questions during the stream, too, just tag us, either one of us.
Yeah,
just tag us in chat and we'll see what you have to say. Oh, wow. Well, I was typing that out. Oh, okay. It was because it was so big. Never mind. I was wondering, ladies. No, I was wondering why it wasn't showing up while I was typing it in the box, but it's because I have it cropped.
Ah.
So, what the hell? Thea PC, you weirdo. You said, what's worse, you fingering the mic hole or me fingering my donut hole? Well, that depends. Are you fingering an actual donut hole or are you fingering the donut hole?
Yeah, are you wearing gloves?
Yeah, okay. There's a big difference between a donut hole and a donut hole. There is a big difference. Inflections matter. A lot is lost here, but he did put a picture of a donut, so I'm going to guess it's a real donut, and I'm going to hope it's a real donut.
Right.
So I'm not saying you shouldn't finger your donut hole. If that's your thing, you rock on. You have a good time. I don't want to be the one standing between you and your objective. But I prefer just fingering my mic stand, which nobody can even see on the stream. I'm surprised he even mentioned it because you can't even see it on the stream. That you see it on my other stream, so I don't know. He must have just implied. He must watch enough of me that he knows that that's what I do. So he just guessed and he was correct because I literally was fingering it right when he called me out. And I'm like, how can you see that? What other things can he see that I don't know about? Cairo said, where is Codegasm? Codegasm is going to come back eventually, but not for a while. There's a lot of demand for it, though. I know that's one video series I can always fall back on, when all else fails. That and 3D printing seem to be the things that don't ever seem to lose any kind of popularity whatsoever. I do want to bring it back. I definitely do want to bring it back. It's just a matter of me getting familiar with the newest Visual Studio and finishing the last project I started, which was a Stream Deck plugin for WMI provider so that I could show any information or telemetry from my computer on my Stream Deck graphically. Ooh. Yeah, we actually got it working. It's literally a couple of hours of coding away from being done. I need to just do it. There's a lot of things in my life that I need to just do it. Nobody fingers my donut hole. Oh my god, you guys are nasty. You guys are all nasty. Is it Jornar Kibsgaard? Gaard? I think I got that. Jornar Kibsgaard. Going to watch for. Is it Gonar?
Bjornar.
Bjornar.
Yeah, for Icelandic or those kind of more Northern European. It's more of a Y sound.
Okay,
Bjornar.
Bjornar. He said, going to watch for a while. Just played some Fortnite with my 9-year-old son. Awesome. I played some Forza last night with mine. He said, I'm not that good as I was in the old Quake World days. Oh, well, take care of us, guys. Keep up. Yeah, we none of us as good as we once was at anything. Yeah. These new kids, the way that they play, it's, oh, my God, dude. I watched a StarCraft tournament the other day, and I just turned it off because I was depressed. Oh, we got 200 rupees. Are those the rupees?
Those the rupees? Yeah, I think those are the rupees.
We got Toothless hooked us up with 200 rupees. He said, "Are you feeling better now, sir? AuxxZillary, any face cam product you recon, sir?"
I wonder what you mean by face cam product, because I have a Logitech C922 webcam, but as far as lotions and stuff, I don't really use any.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So that's yeah. I didn't really get what he meant by that either. Like a face cam product.
Occasionally, I do have a leave-in what is it? Tea tree leave-in conditioner / skin lotion. I really like that stuff. I can't recall the brand or anything. I just got it from my barber, but it smells nice. But I use that occasionally. Otherwise, I just comb my shit out every day.
Yeah, I don't have to use any product on my face because I maybe have to shave once a week.
Right.
I can't grow any significant amount of hair. I've tried. I just can't do it. I just can't do it. No, Sammy, I'm not on Pornhub Live. Is that a thing? Does Pornhub have their own cam thing now? Wow.
Sure.
Man, we're just living in the
Sure.
future. It's a
Like,
good
why would
future
they
to
not?
live in. Yeah, no, they should. That, don't let everybody else eat their lunch. Let's see. What was what was one of the other topics we were gonna jump on here? Since I think we are ready to topic it out. Although,
Well, lots of closures and stuff for various events and things because of why,
yep,
um,
the human
which is
malware.
super sad. Yeah, man, we got people. Emerald City Comic Con is delayed. We got big companies pulling out of NAB, and GTC is now pure online.
Yep,
Um,
South by Southwest. I think
oh
just
yes, heard about
announced.
that? Yep,
So
they
that's a
just
big
they
one.
killed that, which that's a shame. Yeah, South by Southwest, man, that's a
That one's gonna actually hurt like the industry. Like that's gonna be the one that really, really, really hurts the industry.
yeah.
And not that they don't all like. Did you see the Geneva Motor Show? Like the biggest car show in the world. Like
What?
makes SEMA look
Them
like,
too?
yeah, they even closed.
Dang.
And it sucked because they closed like right as they were like opening up. So it's like all those companies invested millions, built their platforms, brought in their cars, brought in their marketing teams, everything, and then just got told, sorry, events closed, everybody go home. And so
Rough.
before they even opened, so a couple of the companies were just like keeping their booths open and just privately inviting people in to tour their products. But I was like, dude, that is such a loss. Like, how do you eat a loss like that? Because like you go to Geneva Motor Show and you're shipping cars by like airplane and stuff to get there. And so you're
Yeah.
probably into that event, 10, 20, 30, 40 million dollars, depending on like, how big of a company you are, like Ford and Ferrari and stuff like that. And it's like, just get told like, oh, sorry, we have to close this entire event that normally hosts like a 500,000 people. I mean, it's the right decision. I think it's the right decision to like, shut down all these big congregation points when you're trying to keep like, something in check like this. But at the same time, it's just crazy. LTX tickets just dropped. Yeah, I really, really hope LTX is out quite a ways though. LTX is out far enough that hopefully this will be routine. Enough people will have, got it and got over it.
Yeah,
That hopefully the numbers will slow down to the point where things will start returning to normal, like long before LTX. But if things just keep getting worse and keep getting worse, which I don't think they will, but if they do keep getting worse, then I probably won't even go. Like I got to protect me. I got to protect
right.
my family.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, man.
but yeah, I'm definitely not going to be, people have been asking me if I'm going to Maker Faire. There's already been people pulling out of Maker Fairs. Like I've been looking at a couple of Maker Fairs and there's already the people that were signed up, ready to go, had booth space and reserve, and they've already pulled out. So a couple of the big major like filament companies pulled out. I don't know if Prusa's pulled out yet. I haven't seen anything from Prusa, but it's like, what about these people that go to these events, like these Maker Fairs, and like half the booths aren't there? That's gonna be frustrating.
That's gonna suck.
That's gonna suck. Like you're gonna go there and it's like so, and then half the people aren't gonna be there because half the people are just gonna like cancel their ticket sales or want a refund or whatever. So the only people that are gonna go are gonna be the people that have like some kind of deturrable investment in it, and then they're not gonna get what they need out of it because there's not gonna be enough people physically there. I really hope that this gets cleaned up like sooner rather than later, just like everybody else. Like the cruise ship industry. I watched that this morning, dude. Cruise ship stocks are down by like a quarter or a half in a week.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
But then,
Go ahead.
oh well, but then you have like Zoom video stock is up. You got Domino's Pizza up 15%.
Oh, for the delivery. I didn't even think about that.
It's like stay at home stuff is
Mhm.
is on the rise. Biotech, obviously.
I heard Amazon Prime is like days behind now. Like if you order on Amazon Prime, like your deliveries are days behind because everybody's having stuff delivered. We even found out Costco. We didn't even know that Costco did home delivery until this happened, and then we found out that Costco does home delivery. We tried it out the other day; it worked great. They just rolled up on our house and dropped off our Costco stuff. So I was like, "Wow!" So, you know what? I think that this whole human malware thing going around, I think is going to be the pivotal changing point where we all turn into Wall-E, where we all just like stay home and we're all in our little hover chairs and everything like that. Never go out again.
Look, it's okay. So I don't know. People, it's a big deal. I'm not trying to downplay that. But the only people who are dying are old folk who are already kind of like prior medical conditions and things that were like, and like, again, not trying to make light of that. I'm not like, this is serious shit, but like the healthier, stronger part of the population is like, it's more the scary part is like that you could be spreading it around and be asymptomatic.
Yeah,
that's the scary thing,
and that's kind of unusual too among viruses. That's like what's making this
so
thing so hard to keep a handle on. Man, yeah, and like 10, I want to say 10 of the people I think that have expired here in Washington State, all were from one old folks assisted living home. So that just goes to show just like how the curve on this is massive. Like if you have a history of like lung disease and stuff like that, this is something you want to avoid like way more than everybody else. If you're a healthy individual, you're probably just going to have anything from like the sniffles to congested chest to maybe like pneumonia, a light case of pneumonia.
We just need to shut down the country for 2 weeks and everybody will be fine. Nobody gets to leave their house. Everybody has to stay.
Did your brain just reboot?
Well, no, Bitnik is trying to send us a link about some Intel vulnerability or something, but I don't see the message at all.
Oh, yeah. If you want to send link, I don't even know if you can do links in chat. You probably have to go to Discord.
I pasted a link just fine.
I'm a mod.
You're a mod.
Yeah, mods get to do things.
Oh, I figured it would just like hold for review or something. Can I like? Is there a way to like temporarily approve? I figured it would. Because I am a mod. I figured I'd be able to let it through.
Maybe there's. I don't know. It should work. I haven't seen anything that said that like the link was deleted or whatever.
Didn't even come through. Like I don't even see it in the chat at all.
I think I actually do block it for like non-mods. I think I do block links because otherwise bots just come in here and spam them, and then once they know that your channel they can do that, they start setting up bot networks to come in and
that makes sense. Well, it's cool, man. Don't worry about it, Bitnik. We'll Google it up here because I'm curious because in my line of work I think I would have heard about it.
Hey, Jatman, do I have your wrench? I apologize if I have your wrench. Oh, also, Jatman said the fatality rate is 2% if your health is average. Actually, from what I've been watching, that's not true.
Oh.
That's actually not true from what I've been seeing from at least the numbers that we've got here in the United States. Globally, that may be the case, but so far of all the people, there have been a couple of healthy people that have died, but for the most part, the people that have died have been elderly with pre-existing conditions. I think there was one kid. There's one teenager that died, but I don't know if he had any pre-existing conditions. So I don't think it's I think 2% is the high side of just how many people are dying from it, period. Like, including everybody. I do know the transmission on this thing is insane, though. Like, one of the news stories I watched yesterday was in Kirkland, a guy went home after a trip somewhere. He went home, and he and his wife and his kid all tested positive for it within, like, 3 or 4 days. And then his neighbors on either side of him both tested positive. So he probably has interaction with his neighbors. I'm sure he did like over that week, but it's just crazy that it's like, this does seem to jump pretty hardcore, like in the proximity of other people, unless you're protecting yourself and paying attention. And they said that you don't want to get closer than, what was it, like 6 feet or something, like to people like facing them, because just breathing in and out, there's a certain amount of particulate that comes out of your mouth from breathing, and they said that it can actually it can transport on that relatively easy, in the contact points, eyes, any mucous membrane. Just don't be exposing your mucous membranes. If you're going into an area that's like Raccoon City, just wear yourself some goggles and put a mask on, for a clean mask for a little while, and don't take it off. Everybody's like, they put a mask on and then they pull it down like this and then they put it back on. It's like, no, you're actually just creating an incubator at that point. It's like, no, medical personnel need the masks because they use them once and then they throw them away and they put on another mask. If you're just wearing the same mask around like all the time every day because they're like $300 on Amazon, you're basically just creating this moist incubator in front of your face that some contamination is going to get into, and basically it's going to screw you. So masks aren't really that important. Even hand sanitizer, like I don't get why hand sanitizer is like selling out like crazy everywhere. It's like, you don't need it. They said this virus is it's an enveloped virus, so which basically means that you can wash it off your hands with soap, any surface, just soapy water. Soapy water removes it from any surface. You don't even need.
Hands, don't touch your face.
Yeah, just flush it down the toilet. But again, I think a lot of this definitely is panic. Just because of the way it transmits, in the fact that we can't really put a handle on it. Like, we can slow its progression, but unlike the other diseases like SARS and Ebola, where it's like they present so freaking hardcore and so freaking fast, you can like get the person in lockdown immediately and everybody that touched them. This is like, you might have contaminated 1,000 people before you realize you have your first symptom. And then the 1,000 people you contaminated, none of them are going to pop up for another week or two. So it's, oh man, that's what makes this one scary. Even though the mortality on it, or isn't as bad as some of the other coronaviruses. It's shit. I did it, didn't I? Fuck.
We made it
We
so
made
far.
it so far. No. No, God, no. Well, now we can put it. Hey, this will actually be a good test because it's not in the description, it's not in the title, it's not in the text
anymore. That'll be the slip, but we can't say it anymore.
Yeah, we're not gonna say it anymore. We're not gonna say it anymore. We're gonna see just how keen YouTube is. Just hearing that one word. We're gonna see if they nail us. Joe Walker said, "Did you hear the two people at MSFT got it?" Hey, baby girl, what's up?
I just heard you screaming, and I'm delayed.
Oh, sorry, baby. Can I get some more coffee? I'm still finishing this one though.
Me too. Me too. I need coffee too, man. My coffee's empty.
AuxxZillary wants coffee too.
Okay.
Here, let me chug this down real quick.
It'd be like an hour and a half.
Hmm?
It'd be like an hour and a half to get my coffee.
My wife ran upstairs because she heard me screaming.
Yeah.
And it wasn't the good kind of screaming. It wasn't like the choking yourself pleasurably screaming. It was the fear I did something wrong screaming. Oh my God.
Oh, everybody's like, what happened? What happened? Oh, we said words that we're not supposed to say.
No,
Well,
I said the word. I take full responsibility for that. That was my snafu.
I'm gonna need a lawyer for like lost wages and shit.
Exactly. Yeah. I think you should hire an employment attorney to help you out during this tough time. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just go to court and I'm just gonna claim it was the human malware. The human malware did it because it did. Technically, I wouldn't be lying. Joe Walker said, "Did you hear two people at MSFT got it?" Yeah, dude. Did you see that? They shut down the whole Redmond campus.
Yeah,
dude. They told everybody. So that's 26,000 employees. Imagine that's 26,000 employees were told to work from home for the next 3 weeks. They didn't just say for like a week or a couple days. They said 3 weeks, and then we'll give you an update to tell you if we're going to extend it. Amazon, Google, both did the same thing. Amazon and Google, Seattle and Kirkland campuses, both. Or I think it's Bothell. Is it Bothell for Google? It's either Kirkland or Bothell. I don't remember.
I don't know.
But
I know
anyways,
Google has a campus in Seattle.
Yeah, they're sending everybody home. They're sending everybody home. So everybody's work from home right now. And the few people that aren't work from home, that are still going into work and stuff like that, people are putting pressure on those businesses. Schools have been closing like crazy. Have you seen that? Like, dude, there are so many schools closed down right now.
A little back and forth still, because like some schools are staying open because it's like the only way some of these kids are getting food.
No, that's exactly why my son's school is actually still open and operating, even though they're at a 30% attendance loss. So people are obviously just holding their kids home out of fear. I'm letting my son go because they've implemented certain protocols that I agree with. Like they're not allowing any parents to enter the school grounds anymore until this blows over.
Nice.
Nice. All food that comes into the premises or whatever, it has to be through the school. Like they're not allowing like kids. I don't know. I think they might still be letting kids bring lunch, but they're not allowed to share lunch. Like they shut that down. It's like you don't get to share your lunch with other kids. And they're treating this very, very seriously. Like the teachers and the staff and everything are all washing their hands way more than they usually would. So, but you're right. Kids like depend on school. I didn't even know this until yesterday when I asked Miss Barnacules. I did not know this. And I'm even contributing to it and I didn't realize it, but I'm glad that my wife just made that decision on her own. The kids eat breakfast and lunch. The kids that don't have enough for like food, they actually give them breakfast and lunch. And then every weekend they give them something called a power pack, which is the kids that can't afford like dinners and stuff like that. Over the weekend, they give them a bag of food to like of snacks and stuff to sustain them over the weekend.
It's a big deal.
Nobody should go hungry, dude. Nobody should ever go hungry in a society like ours. That's the thing that really pisses me off. So, but we contribute to it.
After how we were just talking about how ridiculously how amounts of food waste there is.
Right.
People dumpster diving and shit. We throw away so much perfectly good food all the fucking time. And it's insane.
Dude, I think we just solved world hunger. All we have to do to solve world hunger is just all the poor people need to dumpster dive starting now. And the police have to pass a law that says that if you make under a certain amount a year or you're under a certain age, you are allowed to dumpster dive.
I remember years ago, and I don't know if it actually passed or not, but Seattle was looking at decriminalizing the like dumpster diving, essentially. That like as long as you weren't like making a mess, because then it rolls into like littering, it wouldn't be a like theft charge or whatever within or there was a couple things they could get you for if they caught you dumpster diving, but they like less. I don't know if they went ahead with it or not, but they were talking about lessening it and things like that.
The only thing that I worry about playing devil's advocate here is, let's say you go dumpster diving and you find some food that was thrown out by like a restaurant or something because it was contaminated with something, and then you get sick, you get like really bad, and then you sue the company. It's like, how do they know you bought that food versus you dumpster dived it? And you know, who keeps like the receipts for like everything they buy? Not a lot of people do. So I think that what they need to do is they need to figure out some kind of a system where companies that are throwing out food and throwing out like tangible, like usable things, that are food, just food. Everything else I don't care, but food. There should be a way to mark it. Like they should have like a spray gun or something where they hit it with a dye or hit it with something just to clearly mark that food that was disposed of, just so the companies don't take any additional liability, and then they probably wouldn't be so hardcore about it.
I know there are some companies that will like grocery stores and stuff that will donate the produce that they're going to throw away, because even then, dude, like the I used to work in Cafe 34 on the
fancy
Microsoft campus, by the way.
Did you really? When?
Yeah.
Did we ever cross paths when I was there?
This would have been, let's see, I graduated 04. This would have been like
34 is the prison building, right?
The executive building.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, the executive center.
Yeah.
Okay, dude, I used to go there all the time. I bet, and I've eaten at that cafe like a million times, and I worked there from February 14, 2000 through like 5 years ago. So I bet you
I crossed paths for sure.
We definitely did. I guarantee you 100% we have.
2006, 2008-ish, between there maybe. I'm so bad with time that I'm not sure. But yeah. If you were there for that long, and you were ever walking through Building 34, the executive building, for lunchtime, breakfast or lunch, I was there.
No, and I went to that cafe quite a bit. Like, I guarantee you that we crossed paths. Like, I probably walked up to you and was like, "You're a nobody." You wouldn't even make eye contact. Give me my food, or I'll report you to manager. No, I'm just kidding. I was never that dude.
I ran the sandwich station, but holy cow, there are health department rules in place where we have to toss stuff after 3 days. Every 3 days, like you date and label your product, and if it's been in the fridge for 3 days, it gets tossed out. But dude, 3 days, like, dude, I got shit in my fridge right now that's longer than 3 days, and it's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
But because you can't risk foodborne illness, and it's okay if it's your house, you can take that risk if you want, but we couldn't.
You know what else sucks is like the stores, like our Safeway that we have here in town. They give their food to the food bank, like their you're saying, the produce and fruit and stuff, like a couple days before it goes bad, they give it to the food banks to distribute. But the problem is they only give it to the food banks if the food banks can come and pick it up, and it costs a lot of fuel and you have to find a volunteer and everything. So sometimes they don't come get it all, and they have to still throw it away. And I'm like, God, wouldn't it be cool if they could just take that stuff and just set it out, like just like you know, like a freebie bin or whatever. Just like set that out, every week or whatever, and just let people come and get at it. Because the people that are still going to go in and buy produce and stuff, they're not going to grab the stuff that's like 1 day away from dying just because it's free. The people that buy food are still going to go buy food.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, give it to the people that need it, though. I think that would actually help a community out, like, a lot. Because even in a community, like, I live in a decent community, but I live in one of those areas that's not like Redmond, it's not like Bellevue. It's like you can go a block, and it changes, like, from houses that are $1 million to houses that are, like, 100,000. Like, like, it's a very patchy area where it goes back and forth just because of how old the town I live in is. And, the pre-Microsoft people and the post-Microsoft people, like, share this town. And the thing is, like, that's like my kid's school. It's like, I think they said that there's 15 kids now that are on that program. Out of the whole school, there's 15 kids that need the meal program, where they eat breakfast, lunch, and then they get sent home with food. And I'm like, I'm actually pretty proud of that statistic, but at the same time, I don't think that's the real number. I think that you still have a lot of people that are too prideful. They're not sending their kids to school, or and it's like, I just wish that we didn't live in a society that like frowned down on that. Be like, no, man, I wouldn't be alive today if it wasn't for food banks. Like, growing up, my parents had to use food banks. My dad had seasonal work. So, like, 3 months out of the year, my dad had no income, and we lived paycheck to paycheck. So, like, 3 months out of the year, we were at that food bank getting food. And if we didn't get food at that food bank, my dad was, like, up in the woods with a shotgun, trying to kill deer, Bambi, and bears, and, I mean, anything. Like, he'd bring home a black bear, and we would just eat black bear. Like just whatever he could shoot that was big enough to drag, and hook up to his truck and drag it out of the woods, we'd eat it. So it's like we had elk sometimes, we had deer, we had black bear. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not a big fan of game meat. Like after you eat it, your entire childhood, it becomes a little old, that gamey flavor. But it's like you do what you have to survive. But when you have kids, it's a whole different story. It's a whole different story. It's like when you're solo and everything, it's like there was times in my life where it's like I couldn't afford food. Like I grew up really, really poor. And when I moved out, I had no money except for just to pay for my first place that I had. All I ate was top ramen. Like I'm surprised I didn't die. Like just from eating top ramen, because that's all I could afford was I couldn't even afford a Costco membership, so I'd have my sister go to Costco because her husband worked there, my brother-in-law, and he'd buy me these with his employee discount, these huge bricks of top ramen, and I'd get like 100 packs of top ramen for like $5, and I would just eat that for breakfast, lunch, and dinner the whole month, and I did that for months on end, and I'm like, why didn't I just go to the damn food bank? I qualified for that shit. I could have at least went and got like some eggs or something, but it was one of those things where it's like I made that decision for me because I'm a loner. I can make those decisions as my own person, whether I want to suffer or not. And it was a pride thing with me. But at the same time, it's like now I have a kid and my perception has completely changed. I would do anything to make sure that my kid didn't go a day hungry. Like, I mean, I would do anything. I would literally, I'd get down on my hands and knees and do just terrible, unspeakable things that would never even be allowed to be posted on the internet. I would do those things to make sure that he didn't miss a meal. Ever. And it's a weird perceptual change when you go through that. And I'm sure that a lot of parents in here in the channel right now will agree with me and understand exactly what that feels like. And it's like even you, right? It's like you have a long-term girlfriend, right? And you got a kiddo, It's like so you know what it's like? You got two?
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, I like to think of them as mine. Yeah.
No, dude, that totally counts. That 100% counts.
The intern is the little one, and then the teenager. Yeah.
And it changes things, though, the way you look at things, doesn't it? It's like your whole perception kind of changes when 24 hours a day you live around little people and you realize just how innocent they are and how trusting they are of just the world to keep them alive and keep them going. And then you're sitting there in your seat and you're like, you're keeping them oblivious to all of that because at that age, you don't want them to have that stress. I had that stress growing up and it ruined me, dude, where my parents were like rubbing it in my face every day that like, you're another mouth to feed. You were unplanned. You were an accident. Like my entire time growing up, I always felt like I was just a mistake and I was a burden. And like, if I'd never been born, my parents would have been way better off. And oh my God, that changed how I raised my kid completely. It's the opposite now with my kid. I'm like, dude, I wouldn't go through life without you. Like $2.8 million in medical bills and insurance stuff. Don't even care. Don't even care. I'd do it all over again in a heartbeat. It's crazy. Yeah. Dude, you got to entertain the troops here for a couple minutes because I got to go do the pee-pee dance yet again. Okay. That's what happens when you take Mucinex D, man. That stuff just flushes like every bit of moisture out of your body. So I'm gonna go tinkle in the potty pot and I will be right back. It's what I do, man. It's what I do.
Let's see. Bingport does that as a common story. So like, man, yeah, I don't know. It's nuts. Result. Microsoft antivirus for Linux. That seems strangely counterproductive. Although I know they are getting more into Linux stuff. Did it do it? Oh. Let's see. What is this? Whoa, cool. All right, so hold on. I'm all over the place here. I get distracted. What's up, Terminator? Hello, you guys. When I worked at a food warehouse, I used to get free food just because the external box had a wrinkle in its hair. Oh, sure. Yeah. For sure. One of the best things about working like at a restaurant or kitchen, often get some free food that way. Let's see. I'm trying to scroll through. Tragedy of the Commons, moral hazard. People will not go in and buy something they know they will get for free if they wait a couple of days. I don't think that's true, because, and this will be somewhat like sideways to the the topic, but like the Fred Meyer I go to often enough will have like bruised or like beat up produce like packaged in like a net bag, and they'll sell it at an extreme discount, and people still don't buy that stuff. So I guarantee even if it was sitting there free, people still wouldn't take it. They would still, enough people would still buy it. I don't think it would be a detriment to the company. I don't. There are certainly some people would definitely wait before and either take it for free or whatever. But that's funny. That was Jerry's being lewd, and it was just outside of the crop screen. That's funny.
I'm waiting for you to see the live replay on that.
That was great because when you first came into the scene, you were like doing your hip thrust, and it's cropped. It's out of the stream itself.
Oh no! I was looking at my preview.
You like, and it's totally outside of this scene.
Oh my god. Oh, all right.
So it is. It's in there. It's in there just a little bit. Okay, it was in there.
It was in there just a little bit, ladies.
It had to take up a little.
Hey, did you get Neoda's super chat?
What? No.
Said, here's some cash for you to buy filament to 3D print a plague mask or two. Thank you for that $10, dude. I appreciate it.
Nice. Yeah, I missed that.
Hey, I'm curious. Since you know all this weird like trivia shit, you seem to know. You seem to know a lot. I'm going to test you. So
okay,
because this is one I actually know a little bit about because I've been watching so much TV lately on infectious disease. Do you know how the plague mask works?
Sort of. I would hesitate to use the word works because it didn't. It's not like it was any filter or anything. But so for the people who don't know, a plague mask was a very bird-shaped, like beak-shaped thing that doctors would wear, or medical folk at the time, back during the Black Plague and other. I feel like the timing of the use of the plague mask doesn't necessarily line up with like the Black Plague or something, but that's a different topic.
I think it was more of a response to it, like out of necessity.
Yeah. They would stuff the nose of the thing with herbs and smell good stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, you actually, holy crap, man. You're the, see, he's like one of those, he's like, I don't program computers. And then he's like, oh yeah, one time I was programming a computer and I remember this, and this. I'm like, you son of a bitch, you liar. He's like, you know what you are? You're shit, Matlock. You're like Matlock of this where it's like you just downplay everything. You're like, I'm just a simple Southern man that, just programmed some assembly to fucking make a VFD dance. No, but you nailed it. That's exactly what I know about the plague mask too, is that they literally had a giant nose on them, and the purpose was not to filter the air so much as it was just to have the potpourri fumes right there on your nose. It's like the equivalent of you going into like a morgue or something like that and putting like a little of that peppermint stuff under your nostrils so that you're not smelling the death, right? And they thought that the fragrances, because they couldn't smell it, they thought that it wasn't going in their nose. Like they literally thought that because they were smelling something good, it wouldn't allow the bad stuff to go in. And they couldn't have been more wrong. And they used them at like leper colonies because people would smell really, really bad and stuff. So they put on these plague masks. And they did jack diddly shit, and they just made you look like you were literally like the Grim Reaper. Like, go look up a plague mask. They are the scariest looking things ever.
Yeah, it is a creepy thing, for sure.
I should 3D print one, though. That would actually be an interesting comeback video. Hey, Toothless. What's up, my man? Thank you for another 200 rupees. He said, I have a new fiber optic 100 megabit per second. Should I put Google server 8888 in my router or any other? I have no idea which is good and safe. Here's the thing. Your DNS server that you pick, your internet service provider is going to give you one for free, but unfortunately that means that they're going to know the DNS resolution of everything. 8888 and 88, I think 44? Is it 8844 or 8822 are the two Google servers for DNS. They're going to have more entries in them probably than your internet service provider DNS, or for all you know, your internet service provider could just be forwarding DNS to one of those global DNS, if they don't want to host their own. There's a list. If you do a search on your favorite search engines, just do a search for most common DNS servers, and there's a list of about 10 of them. And I think the one that I use is Cloudflare, and I can't remember why I changed it to Cloudflare, but it was something to do with a bunch of sites I was trying to go to. my internet service provider had the whole old IP entries for the sites, and they weren't updating regularly. So I'd hit F5, and it'd be like, failed to load web page, failed to load web page, and then like 10 minutes later, it'd pop up finally. And for stuff like Facebook and Twitter, it was just acting like really delayed. Like they were not, they were doing something really messy with the server. My ISP sucks. I have a really small town ISP kind of thing. And so I ended up changing it over to Cloudflare, and Cloudflare's DNS has been like super fast.
Nice.
Like a lot of the loading time I was having when I was going to web pages, I didn't realize it until I looked into it deeper through the router that it was the DNS resolution that was taking like 3 seconds. And then the web page would load. And I'm like, God, why is my gigabit internet connection so damn slow? But then I changed the DNS server to Cloudflare, and it's like instantaneous. Like the DNS resolution is like instantaneous, like within 10 milliseconds. So highly recommend. Although there's a ton of them. Cloudflare's one, Google's one, and they're all going to have different rules that they implement as to which servers they'll resolve and stuff like that. And a lot of them do filter certain servers, and usually it's for good reason, like dark web level shit. So just be aware. Just be aware.
Super scary stuff.
Super scary stuff, and DNS servers can log, so just be careful. That's why you should only use IP addresses. Just memorize every IPv6 memory address.
It's just a big book of direct IP addresses.
Dude, how do you even memorize? See, it took me a long time to be able to memorize 4 digits between 0 and 255, right? And now they want us to memorize IPv6, which is like, what, 4 numbers, letters, hexadecimal, and 4 groups with another number that does something. Yeah. And I'm like, I can't even remember 127.0.0.1 in IPv6. Like,
yeah. You wrote that shit down.
Oh, Cloudflare doesn't keep DNS over 30 days? Oh, that's good to know. So they publicly state that? Here's the one thing Google does. I will guarantee you Google's DNS server, there is a reason they are giving you access to their free DNS server. It's because their DNS server is logging every single thing you've ever resolved, how frequently you resolve it, when you resolve it, where you resolved it from, because that data is all important to their giant analytical scheme. Because they can also take that DNS data and they can tie the IP address that the request came from to all the other places you go in on Google and go into sites that have AdSense and everything like that. If you go to a site that has an AdSense ad, it actually reports back to Google information from that ad accompanied by your IP address, and then they can link that to all your DNS resolutions that you've ever done through their service. It's crazy how much they can link this data together. So try to break up your shit. Like DNS Cloudflare, Google for this thing, use this for this thing, use this VPN that is in no way related in a different country to this one, and just move around a bunch so that the company's likelihood of coming together and allowing those databases to all be used in tandem won't happen. So, or has a less likelihood of happening anyways.
Yeah.
You got to keep them feds on their toes, man, because they're always trying to figure out when you're pirating movies and downloading them MP3s. Like, does anybody pirate music anymore? I mean, other than just streaming it online?
I don't.
Man, that was the worst poker face I've ever seen in my life. No, I'm just kidding.
No, for music? No, I use Spotify 100%.
I don't see a reason to anymore.
Yeah, no, it's and that was the problem back in the day, is like the record companies and up until recently with how popular Netflix and things have become, you had a bunch of old people in charge who didn't want to change their model. Why would we want to stop selling CDs? We've been successful at selling CDs for 30 years. Like, this is dumb. I don't know. We're going to fight it. And so you have people break the law because the law takes forever to catch up to how people, like, if you make it easier for people to buy exactly what they want, they will. When Apple started selling songs for $1 a piece, they made millions of dollars because people didn't want the 15 other songs on an album that they didn't want to listen to. They wanted that one cool song that was on the radio.
That actually makes a lot of sense.
And that applies to everywhere. That's why people pirating games dropped so much, because Steam made it easier to buy games. They made it convenient.
Good point. That's actually a pretty good point.
I haven't pirated games in years because Steam just makes it easier.
Yeah, come to think of it, I can't think of a single game that I've pirated. I think the last one I pirated was SimCity. The SimCity 2000, and it was because I bought it and the DRM was all broken and I couldn't play it, so I downloaded the cracked version that you could play.
Yeah.
But I still bought it, so technically, I mean, but it's not really piracy at that point. But I did download a cracked version of it because I was so fed up with the DRM. So I'd imagine that most people that pirate today, they probably don't do it to get the game for free, because most games are online connected now, so it's really hard to pirate something that's online connected. Not impossible, but it's hard. And I think people just realize that they like their game, they go and buy it because they want to play online and they want to have all that. They're not doing the standalone stuff as much. And plus, a lot of the cracked games now, it used to be back in the day that people took pride in piracy. And there used to be like these groups that like tried to be the best group and outdo every other group. And it's like, that was the goal. Now the goal is to put in malware and to put in backdoors and stuff like that. So that when you download a game, like there's no Razor 1911 anymore. There's no Illuminati. All those groups that used to be all these like wares distribution groups back in the day, the shadows of them that still exist today aren't just distributing cracked games. They're distributing malware basically and viruses and things like that. So people have lost a lot of trust in that stuff. Which is funny because it's like, why would you trust a criminal thing in the first place? Like I used to pirate all the time and download all kinds of shit. It's like I never trusted it. Like there's never a trust there because anybody that goes out of their way to give you something for free, they are benefiting from. Nobody's going to do something for nothing. Well, it used to be that benefit that they got was pride and bragging rights and stuff. But in today's world where nobody's using IRC anymore, that doesn't really exist as much as it did. There wasn't an adoration for the people that were doing that. So now most of the stuff that you download. Oh, I remember Skid Row. Skid Row was another big wares group back in the day. But yeah, I think between DRM and Steam and stuff like that, it's really slowed down game piracy. I agree with you on that, like 100%.
Yeah. So people have been talking about this Intel processor flaw.
Ooh, let's hear about it.
Well, okay.
Is it more rumor than fact or?
No, I mean, it's a thing. So it says, and please, Lord Gaben, forgive me that I quote a Verge article.
I do it all the time.
Whatever. Go find your own articles then if you don't like what I'm about to say.
Yeah, the Verge is just hit and miss. They still have a lot of good stuff. They're just super hit and miss.
One bad PC build video, and now suddenly they're like the shittiest fucking journalists in the world. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Whatever. I guarantee everybody else is going to say the exact same thing, just using different words. Okay?
Tell us how you really feel there, AuxxZillary.
Okay. So it says here, the root of the flaw is Intel's converged security management engine, the part of Intel's chips that is responsible for securing all firmware that runs on Intel-powered machines. Intel has previously patched vulnerabilities in the CSME, but the researchers warned that the CSME firmware is unprotected early on when a system boots, so it is still vulnerable to attacks.
Okay.
And that's where this particular problem, I suppose, is based, is that it attacks the CSME while it is vulnerable during those few moments in the boot process. It goes on to say the problem is not only that it is impossible to fix firmware errors that are hard-coded in the mask ROM of microprocessors and chipsets. The larger worry is that because this vulnerability allows a compromise at the hardware level, it destroys the chain of trust for the platform as a whole.
Okay.
However, successful attacks would require skill and, in most cases, physical access to a machine, but some could be performed by other malware bypassing OS-level protections to perform local attacks. This could lead to data from encrypted hard disks being decrypted, forged hardware IDs, and even the ability to extract digital content protected by DRM.
You know what I would say to that, though, is let me peel back a little fear-mongering there from the article. Is if you have malware on the box that's already running at an escalated level of privilege, so you're basically already running as admin, which means you can also make the malware run as system, which is the highest level you can run at on Windows. You already have root level access to do whatever the hell you want. You have even beyond admin privileges at that point. So being able to inject something underneath the kernel, I don't know how useful that would be necessarily, especially when it comes to encryption, because realize that the decryption is done by the operating system itself. So the only thing I could think of is if it was like the shittiest encryption on Earth, where it wasn't based on a key, but yet it was based on just a function returning true or false, basically. Yeah. You could circumvent that. You could put something, you could shim something in underneath the kernel when the computer is booting, so that Windows is like, oh, okay, I can decrypt this drive and show you the contents. But fortunately for us, if you're using drive encryption in Windows 10 or a modern operating system, it's all going to be based on keys. That encryption is all going to be based on keys. So I really don't see this being like an exploitable mechanism to do any more damage than malware would itself once you give it that level of privilege. So this is another one of those hardware ones where it's like, yeah, though in theory it looks like you could do some stuff. Maybe there's some operating systems that would be vulnerable to this for something useful, but I can't really think of like a useful case off the top of my head that you couldn't do far worse damage with physical access to the machine.
Right.
So,
and I feel like that's a lot of this stuff is like, it's only scary if somebody can actually like get to the machine.
yeah.
Which bad actors can, get into your data center or whatever and plug something in and whatnot. But generally, if it's something super bad, super secure, super important,
Yep.
Employees are going to have like background checks and stuff. It's going to be a little bit more difficult to just sneak your way in and plug something in and start hacking your way.
The scary thing is how easy it is to get somebody to become a bad actor without even realizing it. Like, for instance, just dropping a USB thumb drive in a parking garage at a building. Somebody's going to be like, "Oh, one of my friends dropped his USB thumb drive. I'm going to go plug this in and see if I can figure out who it belongs to." Yeah. And then as soon as they plug it in, auto run spins up. It's a dev box on an internal network, so they're logged in as an administrative user. And then it goes ahead and takes over that machine. And then all the shares that they had access to, it spreads itself out to those shares as something that's tantalizing. And then somebody goes to those shares and downloads it. And at Microsoft, we had several of these internal pandemics that would happen where malware and viruses and stuff would just get spread indiscriminately by people that just were not low-level developers that understood how it worked. And so they would just walk right into this stuff. Like, I remember way back in the day, this is years and years and years before even Mr. Robot and stuff started making these like issues public. I remember there being like internal memos at Microsoft that's like, absolutely do not plug in hardware that you don't know where it came from or that you found. Do not ever bring any, if you bring a peripheral or something into work, it needs to be a brand new peripheral that was purchased by, directly from the company so that nobody has any Raspberry Pis or little Arduino middlemen and stuff. Because you can sell a keyboard. You could literally sell a keyboard on eBay that would install a backdoor on Windows 10 and have full access to that computer, sell it on eBay, and it looks just like a regular keyboard. All you do is pop the case open and stick a little, Raspberry Pi Zero in there or whatever that basically just sits between the HID device of the keyboard, and it shims it and installs another driver. And now you've sold somebody a keyboard that they're sitting there using that looks like a keyboard, but every computer they plug it into, all of a sudden there's a backdoor on. And you would never trace it back to, unless you did low-level development, like you could connect with a kernel debugger and actually watch the interaction between the driver stack. You would never, ever in a million years catch this. Even as a power user, you wouldn't catch it. So be very careful with the hardware you buy, where you buy it from. When you plug it in, see how many PMP IDs it's throwing. If it's throwing any more than like one PMP ID, you probably have like something else, unless it's supposed to do that. So yeah, just be cautious in this day and age, because there's a lot of things you could do, especially like USB thumb drives. USB thumb drives are incredibly easy to deploy malware on, because what you can do is you can create hidden partitions on them. Yeah. And you can create like these hidden partitions, then reference the hidden partition from something that's on the main drive, so that the thing that's opening up and installing the payload doesn't expose anything malicious about the malware or the virus. So basically you plug it in and the antivirus is like, oh, everything on this stick looks cool. And then when you run the thing on the stick, that's when it's actually going in and decrypting the stack of the hidden partition, pulling the data out of it, and then injecting the payload, when the antivirus basically isn't on top of its game and monitoring closely. So just be aware. You can be as careful as possible and still technically get malware on your computer. It's happened to me several times throughout my life. I can't say that I've had a malware infestation anytime recently, but even as a power user, I'll tell you this right now, there is malware I couldn't even detect. And I know how to, like, because I know how to kernel debug, but I don't have this set up as a kernel debugger for that machine. I don't actively monitor every single function call that's on the stack that comes through that computer. And a lot of this stuff presents as normal activity. So all of us could have 3 different bot networks on our computers right now that are actively attacking the shit out of everything. And unless we are closely monitoring our routers and the tables, and a lot of these things will even send payloads through a certain IP address so that it doesn't look like it's hitting. They won't use the IP address that's flagged as bad. They'll go through like a free VPN or create their own VPN tunnel that's running on somebody else's machine that's got malware. And so now all your packets are being transferred around. So no matter how many of these IPs get flagged as bad actors, your malware is still running around them. So even if you got blacklists installed on your router, it doesn't matter. These malware things, they found clever ways to just create these mesh networks and just walk around everything, just like Tor. So nobody's safe. That's what I'm saying. Just nobody's safe. If you put a dick pic on your computer, I guarantee you the likelihood of somebody having that you don't want having that probably has that. Right. So, and if you see any pictures out there that look like a bad circumcision that was done for like 99 cents on a fat dude, that's me. That's me, bro.
Yeah, it also says that the 10K series processors aren't vulnerable to this particular issue, and it's related to the whole Meltdown Inspector thing. Like with the initial discovery of the Meltdown Inspector vulnerabilities, people are finding other things and that are peripheral to it.
Did anybody successfully exploit? I mean, other than the person that found it, was there anybody that successfully exploited either of those, Spectre or Meltdown? As far as I know, I don't think anybody really used that attack that I know of.
Yeah.
And here's the thing that sucks, is the fix for that attack is a CPU microcode update that comes at a performance hit to the CPU because a new instruction has to happen every cycle. And there's an OS patch for the other side that even creates another performance vulnerability. Although Microsoft claims they fixed the performance that it's almost on par with what it used to be. But when it first came out, it was a huge hit. I wish I had the option to say, no, fuck you, I don't want a patch. Like, I'm not going to have anybody come in and exploit this locally. I'm protected against malware by, whatever I have in place. If I trust my ecosystem, I should be able to say, fuck you, Microsoft. I don't want that. But the thing is, Microsoft doesn't work that way. Their patches are cumulative. So unless you get that patch, you are cut off from the ecosystem.
Right.
For everything else, I hate that. It drives me fucking nuts, especially when it's messing with hardware, like my CPU's microcode and stuff.
Yeah.
Never combine your dick pic with your face in the same pic. I agree with that. That's a pro tip right there, Czar.
I mean, somebody else could add your face, though.
No, but that's okay because they can add anybody's face they want. So
That's true.
If they want to add my face back in, that's fine, but that's on them. That's not going to stand up in a court of law, be like, hey, that face was clearly photoshopped on there. That isn't my face.
That's me.
I'm already of the mind that with the way deep fakes are going right now, I really think we're all just going to be porn stars in the next 5 years.
Oh, sure.
I'm still waiting. Nobody sent me I've challenged 3 times now for people to deep fake me onto Ron Jeremy in one of the old classic 70s porns, because one, we share a similar body type, although I will argue he has much more hair than me. The other thing, we're nowhere near the same size. I'll let your mind draw that. But somebody do that. So somebody go deep fake me and send me a link to that, because I want to see that. And the thing is, you can't say that there's not enough information to deep fake me. I have 800 videos on YouTube that are all my face. I can't think of a single video I've ever done that didn't have my face in it. So if you trained the system off of all that data, you should be able to create a deep fake that is absolutely convincing. And not only that, if you use some 70s reference material, they didn't have 1080p or even 4K back then. So it's going to be so grainy and shit. You should be able to make it match up perfectly. And I want that. I'm saying I want that for my memories, because I want to watch that and be like, that's what it could have been. That's what it could have been back in the day. Then I would have probably got AIDS and died. But no, that could have been. Could have been. There's live 3D cam girls now. I saw that. Did you see that?
What?
So, okay. And apparently they're getting banned. I read an article on this, and I saw it for myself, but not through the site, because I wouldn't go to those sites or anything.
Sure.
I wouldn't do that. Anyways, okay, now that we got that disclaimer out, they have these, and they're ranking in the top 10. Because it's just a new thing. People are interested in it, where they basically take a camera and they motion map it to a real person and do the face mapping, but it's a 3D character that's stripping and talking dirty and stuff. So nobody ever has to show their identity. They're just a 3D character in a 3D world. And not only that, it's just people are just burned out on everything else. They're just oh, this is interesting. So now they're ranking in the top 10. And they did, I think that they tried to ban them on one of the sites. I don't remember which one it was. But they did try to ban them on one of the sites, and then they immediately undid the ban months later, because they realized that people were tipping more to the 3D thing than they were to real flesh and blood humans.
Yeah, it's well, why not? I mean,
it's so weird though.
Oh, whatever. Huh. Interesting twist on the.
And not only 3D, there's some 2D ones too that use that Adobe. There's an Adobe software suite that you can get that allows you to. I think we were talking about it, the wireframe, where you can basically take a cartoon and animate it. So there's ones that do that too, that aren't even a 3D. They're just a 2D cartoon. It looks like South Park basically, on a campsite, and everybody's in there just throwing wads of money at them. They never have to give up their identity. The only thing they're disclosing is their voice, because most of them use their regular voice. They don't put in effects and stuff. Yeah, but I was like, wow, you wouldn't think something like that would take off, but we live in a strange time where it's anything new and different and interesting, people are gravitate towards. So unique wins again.
I mean, high five to those people. honestly.
And that's the thing is, like, I think they absolutely should be able to be on those platforms. Like the people that I think, because they're bringing in tons of money for the platform, people wouldn't give them any money or watch the thing if they didn't enjoy it. They're not taking anything away. Like, oh my God, they're taking away from No, everybody on that platform is taken away from everybody else. That's the point. Nobody can watch like 100 channels at once.
It's the same Twitch argument, man. Oh, booby streamers are stealing my viewers.
Oh my God. Oh my God. By the way, I support booby streamers. I think booby streamers are awesome. They should be able to run what they brung as long as they're within the rules.
Well, yeah, content is content, man.
Yep.
Like, don't start with that nonsense.
Yeah, I support the gamer girl community. I support the booby streamer community, as long as they're not violating the rules. That's the only time that I do change my opinion on that, is if they're coming in and they're like literally like a nipple slip every like 5 minutes and they're doing it on purpose and stuff like that, and it's creating a frenzy on the platform and everything. Like, okay, fuck, you're gaming the system, you're gonna get banned, and no sympathy from me. But if you are staying within the rules of the platform and you are just running what you brung, like you're feeling sexy, you want to show it off, we all use what we have, you know. I've only got this to work with, so I have to use my personality and my voice, you know. But But it's no different. I mean, I'm still, by being on that platform, the goal is to get attention, and if the more money I make, the more successful I feel. Like that's a common human trait, right? You're like, wow, I'm being successful at this. People like what I'm doing, and that adoration like drives you and makes you want to do it. It's no different whether you have your clothes on or your clothes off, or you're wearing something skimpy, or you're male or female. It all comes down to you like the attention. And you're feeling successful at something, and you're getting rewarded for it. So, and as long as that's happening and you're within the scope, and I do understand why they do have to put some rules on there, because there's people that absolutely push the limits well beyond where they should be for a platform that has like 12 and 13-year-old kids on it.
For sure.
Mr. Texas talking about Corridor. You like them. You're a big Corridor fan, so I'll let you read that one.
Big stuff is fucking great. Yeah, he was talking about bringing Tupac. Snoop Dogg, this is their most recent video. Snoop approached them to help him deep fake Tupac for a music video. Yeah. And I didn't really know what. I mean, I've seen pictures and stuff of Tupac, so like, but I don't think I've ever seen like any video really of him. But they got an impersonator, and it looks pretty good to me. I highly recommend. I
think it's cool. I think that is a good application of the technology, provided that like his family, if he has like a family and next to kin and everything, I think they should have some monetary rights to that stuff.
Oh yeah, I feel like the kind of guy who would have gotten permission. There would be royalty payments and stuff to the Tupac estate.
But people, sure. I've had people argue that it's really weird, like bringing people back from the dead like that. But the truth is, like, I would love it if I could see my mom again. Like, even if it was just completely a facade and it was just her voice and her likeness and doing something impersonating her that she would do. I'd value that. Even though I know in my mind that it wasn't real, I would have value for that, right? It would make me feel good. It would make me happy to just see her in a positive light again. And I think that most people would be okay with that if they could get past the whole kind of creep, because there is kind of a creepy aspect to it if you dig too deep. Like, for instance, remember, I think we talked about a story where they were deep faking children that had died at a young age so that the mothers could like have like an AI almost like interacting with their children in VR so they could see their child live again. I don't know. It may not have been you I was talking about this with. It was somebody else probably. But on Morning Coffee, I think it was Morning Coffee. We were reading an article where it was like, and I thought it was really cool. So you're a mom and you lose your child to disease, cancer or something like that when they're like 6 or 7 years old. Like right when, you're at that point where it's like they're coming into their own, their personality is like heavily influenced by you. It's like, here's this little human that you basically created and raised. And they disappear. It's like, that's a catastrophic thing. I can't even imagine. Like, I can't even entertain the idea if that happened to Xander. Like, it's that bad of a thing. So this company was like, to ease that depression, because this lady has been without her kid for years and years and years and is depressed about it still. And she can't move on. And she's struggling. Right. And she found this company that did this for her. And she said that it was an absolute amazing experience. And she says she knows it's not her daughter, but just being able to see her daughter animated again, and it's not just the same old videos or the same old pictures played over and over again, and being able to like hear her voice in the context with her lips actually moving and everything like that. She said it was a game changer for her. Wow. But a lot of people were super creeped out by that, and they're like, well, at that point you're kind of like violating like the dead or the memory of that person. It's like, no, I don't see it that way at all.
Yeah, that's not for you to say. That's
100% agree.
Like, that'd be like if my mom wanted to. Maybe there's a line, right? I'm sure there's a line.
There's always a line. Yeah.
Well, like if you're spending so much time with this video essentially, or this like recreation, to a point where like it's detrimental to your own life, sure, that'd be no different than someone obsessing over old videos of their mom or child or something, and not going to work or taking care of themselves and things like that.
Yeah.
But like it's not for you to say, it's not for someone on the outside to judge or to say like this is wrong,
Right.
like because again I feel like it's just an evolution of, there's like the people who save voicemails from like the very last voicemail that you received from a loved one before they died in a car crash or something.
That's what I did.
And
My mom, the last voicemail I had from her a week before she died, and I listened to that probably once a year and cry my eyes out. But it's like happiness, right? It's like I remember her, and it helps to bring those memories forward, and I remember her face, and I remember her voice, and it just makes it strong again. And then I start having like good dreams and stuff like that, where she shows up in my dreams. And
that's okay.
Yeah, I think it's cool. I think it's cool.
That's good. I feel like it could be a really good therapeutic tool, especially tied with a proper like grief counselor or something along those lines.
And some magic mushrooms too. Let's throw some magic mushrooms in there.
Hey, now that's an interesting topic. I think I should investigate it more, and we might bring that up next week. Microdosing of psychedelics is becoming a very legitimate thing again.
I say we just talk about it right now, because I'm actually I'm interested in it.
I know that it's a thing that is actually picking up so if you rewind the tape, psychedelics were used in controlled environments with therapists and things, in particular LSD, to cure quite a lot of mental disorders. And I apologize to folk who I'm probably using bad terms and things for this sort of thing. I'm not very knowledgeable in this area, so I apologize if I'm ignorant. But and they just got out of hand. People were starting to write scripts for LSD just to trip out. But people were being cured of schizophrenia. They were being cured of smoking. They were being cured of PTSD. And there are legit. I mean, for the 50s and 60s, they were legitimate. Uses for this sort of thing, but then it just got out of hand.
Well, keep in mind that was during a time too where it's like benzocaine or whatever, which was like a benzodiazepine you could buy in a nasal inhaler for like a nasal decongestant. You could literally buy morphine at the store.
I mean,
cocaine was legal. Yeah,
for weight loss and stuff. So, but we're coming back around to it where they're actually microdosing various magic mushrooms, and also I think they are looking back into LSD again.
LSD, DMT, and then there's the third one is MDMA. That's another big one, and that's ecstasy. And then there's what's the one that comes from mushrooms? It's like psilocybin or psilocybin or
psilocybin.
Yeah, I think that's how it's pronounced.
The psychedelic, the active ingredient.
Yeah, so all those four compounds are like distinctly different, but they're all similar in that if they're used in microdosing and stuff like that, you can actually have somebody guide you through like memories and traumatic events and stuff like that. But it's like stuff you'd never want to do by yourself. Like, because I know people that have tried magic mushrooms by themselves, and I never ever hear the good story of I just went home and sat in my front yard doing magic mushrooms and it was awesome. It's always those are the people that tell the horror stories. The ones that tell the good stories are when they're in a comfortable area, they feel safe, they feel secure, and they're with friends. Then they're like, it's a completely different story.
Yeah, your mental state going into it is going to affect your journey quite a lot.
And to anybody to think that like drugs like that like make you stupid, everything can make you stupid if you take too much of it. It's all about dosage. It's all about timing and being responsible. Because look at Timothy freaking Leary got what, two Nobel Peace Prizes, and both times he stood up in a speech and said that he credited LSD with his ability to think in that way that got him those Nobel Peace Prizes. And people were like, oh, Ixnay on the come on dude, don't talk about the LSD.
Yeah, and I feel like this is a good thing that we're looking into alternative methods of treatment for mental diseases, because let's just be real, that's the legitimate thing. There are man, sometimes your brain doesn't work the way it ought to. I'm struggling
Yes.
with realizing my ADHD, which, I mean, I'm working on getting a proper diagnosis for it, but like the more I look into it, the more I read about other stories of people who've been diagnosed and things like that. It's it's crazy, man, to look back and see like, man, I could have maybe had this fixed a long time ago,
Yeah.
or treated. And it's really cool to see that we're looking more into these sorts of treatments. I think it's really cool.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. It's
some of it is internal.
yeah.
You know,
And the thing is, too, is the drugs themselves, every single drug that has ever been created, as far as I know, has a practical application. It just unfortunately ends up being
absolutely.
abused to the point where that benefit no longer outweighs the dangers of it. So then the government has to step in and well, I shouldn't say has to. They literally banned weed, which is like one of the most harmless substances on the freaking planet. I'm not a fan of it personally, but I've known more people on alcohol that beat the shit out of each other and get into trouble. People that smoke weed, like they literally just like sit on their couch, get the munchies, and laugh at everything. Like,
Right.
I don't know people that like get stoned and go out and start like knocking heads and shooting up places. So it's one of those things where it's like you can't always trust the government to make the decision that's right for us. So, you know, did they get it wrong for mushrooms too? Yeah, if you have too much mushrooms, you're probably going to go on a crazy trip and be naked running through the middle of an intersection. But if you did it with like a couple of friends in the confines of your house and it was a very low dose, or you were with a therapist that could guide you through it, that kept you safe and had the ability to say sedate you if you went absolutely fucking nuts or something. I actually think that stuff like that could be interesting, because just like what I was talking about, listening to my mom's recording, that helped bring her forward in my brain, and it changed how I thought. It changes how I feel. It makes me remember her. Well, if you think about it, a lot of these substances, they're mind altering devices. They're allowing you to access memories, and they're allowing you to access different ways of thinking that are not conventional. And by
Right.
being in that state for a little while, when you come out of it, you still get to you still remember that all. You bring it with you. And so, of course, that could backfire if you weren't in the right environment and bring traumas forward and like cause, you know, some damage there. But that's why you got to be responsible about it, and you got to, you know, like I would do it under a therapist's supervision. Like if I had a therapist that was licensed to do microdosing of like LSD or something, I would absolutely try something like that to get over my depression and
I would
improve
too.
my disposition.
Totally. And I think that's part of it. So having no personal experience with some of the more psychedelic drugs, I'm off the map for myself. What I imagine is it allows you to it gives you the opportunity to kind of look at these things, these painful memories or painful experiences in a somewhat disassociative way.
Yeah.
You can look at it while not experiencing the memory, I guess. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean?
Yep.
Or you
Almost
can
like a third
experience.
person perspective, right?
Yeah. I feel like it would give you the opportunity to look at it as an event that occurred outside of yourself.
Yeah. Well, I
You
know
know,
I have a friend, I won't say his name, obviously. You don't know him, though. I have a friend who actually told me that he tried ecstasy once, which I believe is MDMA. Ecstasy is just a fancy name for MDMA.
sure.
And he said that after a single dose, he'd never felt better in his entire life. He said he felt free, no panic, the most relaxed he's ever been in his life. He'd feel safe, like in the middle of a room of knife wielding crazy people. Like he said, it was the most relaxing thing. But the thing he noticed is that he only ever did it once, because it was one of those situational things, right?
Oh,
He's
sure.
never in a situation where that would normally happen. It was like this one in a lifetime thing where it was like situation, everything lined up. He felt safe. He did it. And he came away from it and said that the lasting effects, even months later, he said that he still felt better and he still felt like a sense of well-being and warmth and uplifting just from the one time he did it. Now, again, this isn't any kind of promotion for stuff like that, because the other thing, it could go horribly wrong. It could also go horribly, horribly wrong. He took a big risk there, but at the same time, if it's more well known and it's more studied and you're doing it in a controlled environment and they know more about like the overall effects on people, there's always going to be edge cases. I think it has
Right.
the potential to do more good than evil, and if a drug can do more good than evil in the right circumstances, we should not just outright ban it.
Yeah. Uh, it's a hard.
Like, what's the one that comes from the cactuses? The ones that the Indians still use? Is it
Oh,
ayahuasca? Is it ayahuasca?
uh, that sounds familiar, but it's also called or another version of it or whatever. Um, Peyote.
Peyote, yeah, because I watched a documentary with this guy who just goes around and tries every drug in the world. It's something
Yeah.
pharma. What's his name?
Pharmacopoeia?
Yeah, Pharmacopoeia. You watched that, right? With like the
yeah,
crazy, the crazy
Yeah.
skinny dude with the dark hair and the glasses.
Yeah. I've heard of it. I haven't watched it yet.
Oh,
but
it's really good. It's a series where this guy basically he's a chemist. He's literally like PhD in chemistry. He goes around the world and he just examines all of these drugs that he finds, like ones that are well known, ones that are, but he tries them all himself, and then he does like all the science on it and the chemistry and shows you how it's made up and how it works on your brain and everything like that. And he tells you like the ones that are bad and the ones that are good from his perspective. Like he gives his real perspective on it. And
That's awesome.
he did the ayahuasca thing, and it usually makes you throw up. Everybody that takes it usually throws up like within like 5 or 10 minutes of taking it. But then once
Weird.
you throw up, apparently it like puts you in like a trance like state for hours, where you can see light and you can perceive sound as light. Of course you can see light. No, I mean you can see sound as light. And
Neat.
your ears, you can see with your ears is how they said it's just this crazy experience, but it's guided. Yeah, it's guided.
Yeah.
You basically go in, you have a shaman who's guiding you through the thing, and as they figured out over hundreds and hundreds of years, like how to keep people from freaking out. And people that go and do this, it's banned because people freak out and they go do like run naked through stores and stuff on this stuff. But the
Yeah.
people that do it with the shaman, they never go over the edge. It's all like really chill.
That's
They're
the
all
thing.
down to earth.
That's the big thing. It's like some people in the chat were mentioning too, like, oh, well, what about the guys who like freak out and like go running through the streets or whatever? Or, my friend thought ninjas was chasing him and stuff. And it's like, one, that's a dosage thing, right?
Yeah.
That's why they're micro dosing. You take very more. It's such a small dose that you likely aren't even going to like see stuff. It's more to get to the brain into a certain place. But like, so people who take these sort of psychedelics in a recreational sense are and freak out. It's a combination of mild overdose.
Yep.
And not really. I suppose like the expectation of what's going to happen doesn't match right, and so they freak out. But that's why these investigations are doing very small. We're talking like micrograms.
Yeah.
Of this stuff, and
that's actually legal in Washington now, by the way. Yeah, we have legislation here that actually protects. They have to be licensed for it, but we have one in Bellevue here that I've thought about going and seeing because it's something that I've been highly interested in. And they microdose. I don't think it's LSD. I think it's psilocybin. But they do microdosing of psilocybin, and they basically walk through and do therapy sessions with you under the influence. So they give it to you. They wait a half an hour. If there's no effect, they give you a little bit more until you're in like a little bit of a transitive state. And then they relax in a room. They bring the lights down, and then they talk to you, and they go through the therapy session with you. And they said that their success rate is like through the roof. Like 80% of the people that do this see an improvement in their mood even after the fact. It's not about how you feel when you're on it. It's about how it helps you deal with things and cope with things in a way that when you come out of that transitive state, you still have the benefits of it.
Right. And Gaint Mays mentions that like once you start microdosing, you have to take more to get the same effect. The idea is it's not an ongoing treatment. It's not like you're taking Prozac every day to treat your depression. The idea is that you will stop. That it's like a combination of therapy, and that you eventually won't have to do it anymore.
Yeah, the point isn't to do it for life. These aren't like pain medications and stuff like that where it's like they're only useful while you're taking them. It's like this is stuff that helps you perceive things differently and get your memories in order and get your mind in order, so that you still benefit from it. So, but yeah, if you're curious, I'm curious. We should call that lady up. See if she's taking some new clients.
I don't know about. Well, I mean, I'd be curious to investigate like actually trying the therapy, but I'm also just curious about like the science, or like the attempted science, I suppose. I don't know, because again, like a lot of this is biological too. Like some of the people who freak the fuck out taking mushrooms or whatever, and the people who don't, it also has to do with you. I've known people who freaked out smoking weed, and
Yeah.
that's not supposed to be that, but
It makes me really paranoid. That's why I don't like
yeah.
it. Is like even like the mild strains that aren't supposed to do that make me paranoid.
Yeah, it all has to do with who you are and how it affects you. And so I'd be curious just to sit down and talk with them and be like, yo, what's the deal here? Like, I'd love to know
Yep.
more.
Yeah, no, I definitely, because I've seen things get banned that have use, like in pharmacology too. That's the weird thing, is like a lot of the pharmaceutical drugs that we take are based on very, very dangerous banned substances. They've just been reworked for use in the pharmaceutical context. Like, for instance, heroin. I'm technically a heroin addict because for the last 10 years, I've taken oxycodone for an irreparable damage that I have in my lower back. Oxycodone is like one molecule chain or two molecule chains off from heroin, basically. It's like it's an opiate. All the opiates are based on the same chemical chain, and they all have like a little bit of difference that alters them a little bit. But for the most part, it's like, no, if you took the dosage of that pharmaceutical medication at the same level that you'd take like heroin, you would get the same result. You could potentially overdose. You'd be really sick. You'd be like off your shit rocker laying on the floor drooling on yourself. But if you take enough just to take the pain away, you actually don't even know if you took it or not. Like, I'm to the point now where it's like I still take a low dose because I don't want to have to go to a pain doctor. Once you go over a certain dose, you have to go do a pain doctor thing.
Right.
I take the low dose, so I maybe only get about 20 to 30% the pain loss I did when I first took it like 10 years ago. But it's still enough that I can function and I can move around, and my back pain's still there, but it's like I can tolerate it. If I take any more than that dose, then it starts being like warm and fuzzy and floating on on kittens, and that's the shit that sends you down the pipe of like no return, right? When you start, they call it chasing the dragon, right? Because you have to keep taking more to get the same exact sensation, and the next thing you know, you're like Rush Limbaugh, and you're like, oh my god, what have I done? So, so yeah, I'm lucky enough to have a wife and a family and a paying contract and all kinds of shit that keeps me in line on that. And it's been very successful, and I don't know what I'd do without it. Like, if they ever ban that class of medication, that's the only. I've tried them all. I've tried all the different non-opiate based pain relievers. That is the only one that doesn't have severe side effects and actually helps with the pain.
See Mopar. So a video where AuxxZillary narrates and interviews a therapist while Barnacules is tripping balls. How come I can't trip balls? I want to trip balls.
I actually think you tripping balls would be funnier. Like, for some reason, I think it would be funnier just seeing like the dude with the big beard, like just and I'm sitting there and I'm just like, hey Houston, how you doing, brother? I'm like, hey, how's it going, Houston? I turned on the voice bender right there.
That's great. Oh man.
The therapist's like, stop, you're messing. Oh God, strapped down at the table. You're fine, Houston, you're fine. You're on fire. No!
So
okay, that wouldn't be a good idea. I take it all back.
In my youth, I was a very curious folk, and I have tried a number of things in my past, and I've always had a good experience. I think that partly went because I knew a little bit about what to expect, and I think because I had such an open and curious like mentality going into it. I'd be very curious. I would be very curious to see more about just how it does affect people. Like, we wouldn't even have to give it a shot. Like, I'm just very curious to know, like, what it's being used for, what progress has been made for certain things.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would just be very, very interesting to me because, like, I'm becoming more and more fascinated in mental stuff, I guess.
I'm more boring in that I didn't try the first like legitimate drug that I ever had that I would consider like something that's a drug, right? Would be when they first put me on oxycodone when I was, I think, 29 or 30. I think I was 30 years old. They put me on oxycodone because I injured my back, and then through that injury, they did an MRI and discovered that I had this bone spur, and this bone spur was actually the real problem. That the damage I did to my back was the issue that got me to the doctor, but then the bone spur was what I never recovered. And so they put me on that medication, and that was the first time, like, dude, I had never had weed. I think I barely just started drinking like a beer every once in a while. Like, I didn't drink until I was 27 years old. That was when I had my first beer, was at 27. So I was like one of those people growing up. It's like no substances, nothing. Like, you can even ask Miss Barnacules. She cracks me up because I used to give her so much shit. Like, she went to Mexico once and like brought back some Tylenol with codeine in it. And I was like, you're just a drug addict taking that shit. I don't want to be around you when you're on it. And it's like now I fast forward to I'm taking something that makes codeine look like fluffy, kitten, kitten cuddles. And I feel bad because I used to like she'd drink a little bit and she was so happy. Like when she was drunk, she'd be so happy and so bubbly, and I'd just be pissed off the whole time because like I grew up with an alcoholic father and I thought everybody that drank alcohol were assholes. But then it took me time to learn. Yeah. But then once I learned, I relaxed a little bit. I was like, okay, but still to this day, the only things I've ever tried, and not to underscore them as not being hardcore. I mean, they absolutely can be. Is Adderall, which is an amphetamine. So basically, it's meth, but just at a much lower dosage and it's controlled. Oxycodone, so basically heroin, but again, much the key to pharmaceuticals. The key to pharmaceuticals is that the dosage is absolutely 100% perfect. Yeah, you don't get that buy-in from Mike on the corner. Mike on the corner ain't gonna guarantee down to the microgram.
That's it. That's the thing. That's why I'm kind of excited to see where this microdosing thing goes. I don't think it'll ever get to a point where you can just take a pill that like 5 milligrams is always going to have this effect on somebody, because like I feel like the way that some of those things interact with your brain is going to be very specific to each person. But like it'd be really neat to be able to like say, okay, we're going to put you through this 12-week program where you're going to come in once a week and we're going to make a nice little sprinkle tea. Yep. and we're going to talk through your issues. And by the end of it, you're probably going to be okay. Like, that's really cool. I think the fact that we're in I feel like, and I think I've mentioned this before. I feel like I have. I'm really excited that I feel like our generation, because you're not too much older than me.
No, I'm 40.
Yeah, I'm 33. So yeah, I definitely think our generation is so much more open to talking about mental health subjects.
Massively.
I think, and it's so much less of a stigma than it ever used to be. People are opening up and saying, man, like sometimes I fucking cry first thing in the morning, or like, dude, I talk bad about myself when nobody's around, or being more just being more open and honest
we're more emotional. We wear our emotions on our sleeves more than like it used to be about keep cover up, be tough, especially as a man, specifically as a man growing up. It's like that's the thing I grew up with my dad, is that you never show pain, you never show emotion. When I used to cry when I was a kid, my dad would actually like call me names and bully me and shit because it was embarrassing to him to be seen in front of his strong and manly friends with a little boy that was like easily shooken. So that perception like warped me growing up. Like I wanted to get far away from that, and I've raised my son completely the opposite, and he is such a happier kid, and he is so much more compassionate. So I think we're definitely headed in the right direction on that one. Oh my God. But I'll tell you what, like growing up as a kid in our generation is way different than growing up now. I mean, I think it's clear to say that. Like
for sure.
Even you, because you're mostly a child of like late 80s, 90s. I was a child of the entire 80s. You never saw. Here's one observation I want to make as a father of an autistic child. Yeah, if you guys didn't know, Xander's actually on the spectrum. He's super high functioning, though. We put him through so much therapy over the last years that he's now in public school. He reads at a level that like his classmates don't even read at. The kid is super That's genius awesome. Level smart.
That's so cool.
But we had to help with a lot of his social skills and stuff. Because, when we first started therapy, he didn't recognize that there was other people. He thought he was the only living creature in the universe. And other kids could literally walk up and interact with him, and he wouldn't even acknowledge their existence. Like, not even just ignore him. He just would not be aware that there was another being in his presence. And therapy helped with that so much. But here's the observation I want to make as a parent now of an autistic child. And just being in that community and knowing, if you have an autistic child, people with autistic children because you run in that circle. And the one thing that I've noticed now that's different from when I was a kid is when I was a kid, I didn't see a lot of autistic people. And the reason I didn't see a lot of autistic people wasn't because they weren't there. Everybody's like, oh, autism numbers have gone through the roof in current generations. No, reported autism numbers have gone through the roof. Autism has always been around. It's just everybody's explained it away as, oh, he's kind of weird. He's a little off. He's a little bit different. It's like nobody ever diagnosed it as what it is. And so that's why nowadays we're more comfortable with that. And so it's more accepting in society. So people are willing to get people tested at an earlier age, get them the therapy that they never got before when they were like locked up in the house and nobody take them outside because they didn't want to be embarrassed. It's like that those changes have changed everything. So now it's like you probably know people that are diagnosed on the autism spectrum that you never ever in a million years thought they were.
Right.
So
I feel like the same for like ADD and stuff too.
Absolutely. And if you guys didn't know, I'm diagnosed as a child and as an adult with ADHD. I was treated for 5 years on Adderall, and it completely changed my life during a period where when my son, when he, actually it was longer than that. I think I started Adderall like right after he was like a year after he was born because I was having a hard time doing my job. I couldn't do my job. I couldn't focus on anything because I had like this sickly kid that was just out of the hospital having all kinds of medical stuff, and I was freaking out, right? I couldn't focus on anything. And I remember them putting me on Adderall, and it was like within a day or two, like I noticed colors changed. I relaxed. I could focus on things. I could shift from one thing to another. Distractions didn't grab me as much. And it changed my life. But up until that point, I'd never needed it because I controlled my environment so much. It wasn't until my control of my environment was taken away that I realized that I was at a disadvantage and I needed some help. And I will tell you what, I have been off Adderall for 3 months now because after all that blood clot stuff, the doctor wanted to take me off of it. And it has been very, very difficult for me to focus these last 3 months. It has been a nightmare. So I'm hoping at some point he puts me back on it because it's like, it is very, very hard to function at any level with the distractions that go on in life and everything going on. Even this human malware problem that's going around right now is putting me at like this anxiety level that I would have never gotten to if I was still on Adderall. Like I would have cared significantly less and I would have balanced out my attention between things. And now I'm like, I feel like that was taken away from me. So I am 100% for like therapy, and whether it be through drugs, a combination of therapy and drugs, or just therapy. Those are great tools to help you deal with things. Like where I've been helped is definitely with the therapy. Talking to my therapist, like even in the absence of the ADHD medication, talking to my therapist helps to calm me and helps me to kind of put things in focus and ignore some of the stuff that I normally can't ignore. It's amazing how another person just talking to you can help you with that, but it absolutely works. I love therapy. I'd recommend it to anybody. Just don't settle it. Just like a car dealership. Don't buy the first car you see, shop around, man.
Yeah.
I think we got a couple super chats here. Toothless, thank you for the 100 rupees. He's showering us in rupees today. He's going all Zelda. He said, my psychiatric doctor told me to believe in yourself like I never exist. Wait, go to Temple, India, and I paid like 2,500 rupees for that session. So you went to a doctor and he just told you to believe in yourself, and then that was the end? Okay, that's a terrible therapist. Yeah. I don't know how much 2,500 rupees is, but you got robbed. Like, you should not go back to that therapist. Actually, you know what I consider a good therapist? And again, not judgmental because everybody needs different things. But for me personally, what I needed from a therapist is somebody who listens 99% of the time and talks 1% of the time. All the therapist does is keep me talking, and if I'm veering off of something, the therapist pulls me back and pushes me down that topic. So the therapist basically not forces me, but guides me in a very non-judgmental way to talk about the things that they can see is bothering me, that I'm acting like it doesn't bother me, if that makes sense. Like, they're really good at just watching me while I talk and be like, oh, back it up. Let's go down that line a little bit more. And it's amazing because when you first do it, you're like, oh my God, this is dumb. Like, this is dumb. Like, I could do this myself. You can't. You need that guide. It completely changes your perception when you're talking out loud and saying things to somebody versus saying them in your head. Completely different.
Totally. I remember seeing this thing. Somebody was talking about going to the therapy session, and they were talking about like, oh, I always eat scrambled eggs for breakfast because it's like the only breakfast food that like I can stand. And the therapist goes, well, why not have like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, or like why not have a lunch food?
Yep.
And the person was like, well, what do you mean? And she's like, you don't have to have like breakfast foods, quote, you don't have to have
something that seems incredibly obvious.
Yeah, you can eat anything you want. And it's like mind-blowing. And and that right there is like what therapy is about, or a counselor, or whatever word you want to use.
Yep.
They help you to realize things that like you wouldn't on your own, I guess.
No, that's exactly it. And the other thing too is like, you can say something that you've thought about 100 times over, but hearing yourself say it like changes things. Like, just try this. This is an exercise. Actually, one of my favorite parts about the book, it's literally a book called Unfuck Yourself.
I love that book.
Fantastic book. Costs like,
it's great.
Get the audiobook though, because the author is hilarious when he reads it.
Dude, it's only like 3.5 hours. I highly recommend it myself.
Yep.
It is such a great book.
So get that one, and then the next follow up to that one that I like is the Simple Art of Not Giving a Fuck. Those two books are amazing. But the Unfuck Yourself book, one of the premises that they talk about in the first chapter of that book is how important it is to hear yourself speak out loud. Talk to yourself as if you're a third party. Like, you're talking to yourself like you're your own friend. And it seems stupid and it feels really uncomfortable even when you're by yourself to like even entertain the idea of doing this exercise. But once I did it, I realized like, and I have to like reread the book like every 3 months because I trail off and I forget about this. Like, it's really easy for me to forget about this. But try this sometime. Next time you're trying to figure something out that's freaking you out, go into a room by yourself, even a place like you don't need a mirror or anything like that. Just go into a room by yourself and just speak out loud about whatever it is you're thinking about. And what you'll notice is you'll actually start yelling and getting mad and getting frustrated, and all the emotions that come along with what you're saying will come out as you're speaking that don't come out when you're thinking about it in your head. It's like when you hear yourself saying it, you rally yourself, and it makes the memory, like the emotion of you hearing yourself talk and hearing those inflections, it basically amps you up. And,
really does.
and I've done that in the shower before. I preferably do it when nobody's around because, I don't want to seem like I'm crazy any more than I already am. But when I stand in the shower, I'll do that. I'll be standing there and I'll like, taxes freaks the shit out of me because I'm, self-employed. The IRS changes the tax laws all the time. It's a super like stressful event for me every year. So what I did is when I first read the book is I went in my shower and I'm taking my shower and I'm like, why in the fuck does the IRS make this so goddamn complicated? This is so frustrating. I can't get any sleep. I can't get anything done. I'm so fucking mad. Next thing you know, I'm like screaming at the top of my lungs. My neighbors next door are probably wondering if I'm killing somebody. I punched the wall in the shower like as hard as I fucking can. Luckily it wasn't the glass door. That would have probably been an emergency room visit. But I punched the wall as hard as I can. And then what I noticed is after I was done raging for like 5 minutes, I got out of the shower and I dried off and my whole body was like relaxed. I was like so relaxed. It was almost like I just purged the venom from my body. And this is something I've been thinking about for days and weeks. Just in my head, my internal voice, my monologue, just going and going and going and going. And it did not have the same effect of doing the exact same thing out loud to myself.
Yeah.
So you hearing yourself back is a really powerful tool. And I thought the book was like full of shit when I heard him say that. I was like, oh my God, this sounds so fucking cliche. But no, it's true. And another thing too is you'll notice when you talk to other people, and I think this is why therapy is really important. The therapist is also important. But what I think is really important is that you acknowledge that another human being is hearing you out loud. They are hearing your state. They are hearing your emotion. They are hearing what bothers you and why it bothers you. And you're paying them to hear so you don't feel bad about dropping shit on them. Like your family, you don't want to talk about stuff. You don't want to be like, oh man, I didn't get 16 BJs the other week, so I'm really depressed about it. You don't want to say that to like your friends and your family and stuff. Well, if you're not me, I say that to everybody. But if you don't want to say that, you pay the therapist. They are there to listen. They are a professional. They want to hear these things. You can literally dump the most insignificant thing as angrily as you want. Just get it out. And you see another person that hears that, they tuck it away in their wallet and they're like, you know what? I can totally understand that. And they look at you and you're like, man, you are placating the fuck out of me, but I love you. Like the effect is still there.
They're a doctor, right? Just as you would be open and honest with your medical doctor talking about, whatever, like you should be completely honest with your medical professionals. The same applies to mental health professional. Like you're not getting, just in the same way that you're not going to get the right physical like fix if you are not honest with your medical doctor. You are not going to get the same mental fix if you're not honest with your medical your therapist or whatever. It's medical professionals.
This reminds me of a story I had with my doctor. I've had the same personal care physician for like 15 years. When I moved into this town, I got a new doctor because my other doctor was way too fucking far away, and I've had him ever since. And he's a fantastic doctor. But the one thing I like is when I went and saw him for my first physical that I got. After a year, I walked in there and he started asking me questions completely nonchalantly. He's like, do you masturbate regularly? And I'm like. And I'm like, he's like, no, he's like, it's healthy. You should. I was like, okay. I was like, yeah, okay, 3 times a day or whatever. Okay, cool. No judgment. At the time I was pretty horn dogger. So he's like, he's like, okay, so, how many sexual partners do you have or whatever? And I'm like, I'm married. And he goes, well, that doesn't mean you just have one sexual partner. He's like, I'm not here to judge you. He's like, I need to know your medical history.
This is data.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, this is weird. So, okay, no, I really only do have the one. Fun fact, I've been with my wife. She's the only woman I've ever been with. Like, yeah, I know, to this day still, it's crazy. So, which I'm quite proud of. That's one of my proudest things.
Awesome.
But the doctor was like, yeah, no, but it's not uncommon for like men to cheat. It's not uncommon for men to do these things. Like, I'm not here to judge you. I am your doctor. And he's like, I need to know these things because building this medical record on you is important to me making, informed decisions about what might be what. Because at the time I was seeing him and getting the physical, it was for, I had a prostate infection. And he's like, how did this guy get a fucking prostate infection? Like, I need to know what he's doing. So I answered all the questions truthfully, and dude never judged me. Never, ever judged me. He's still my doctor, everything. I love the guy. I just love the fact that I can be that laid back with him. And now I just go and joke with him now. Like, I go in to get my physical or whatever. I make all kinds of inappropriate jokes and try to get him to crack a smile and laugh, which he does. But it's one of those things where it's like, it made me feel more comfortable around him. And the other thing too is like, if you can't tell the truth, no matter how bad it is, you're never going to fix the problem, the underlying problem, because you're hiding it from yourself, and that's the cause of the problem. Right. So, and that's why I like therapists, is because I feel like my therapist that I have right now, I can literally tell her that it's like all the bodies are buried over here, and she would just be like, okay, well, how do you feel about that? Like, she wouldn't be like calling the cops, like, she probably would have to for something like that. But I'm just saying, like,
only if there is a danger of harming others or yourself.
That's correct. Fair enough.
Yeah.
But you can tell them anything. Like, they've heard it all. Like if you like to draw on yourself like a crayon with your own excrement or whatever, it's like no judgment. They literally straight face be like, okay, well, are you cool with that? If you're cool with that, keep doing it. I've had my therapist tell me to keep doing things that I thought for sure they were going to be super judgmental about and be like, no, you should probably stop that. That's not productive. They don't do that. Like, a good therapist is like, hey, does it make you feel good to like dance around in like women's underwear or whatever, masturbate 40 times a day? Do it. Just do it. If that makes you happy and it's not hurting anybody else, you should absolutely do that. And hearing that from another person, not that particularly thing, it was another thing even worse than that. But anyways, I was like, hearing that from another person all of a sudden makes everything better. It does. It totally makes everything better. That is a good therapist. Highly recommend that therapist. We got a super chat came in from John Simon. Thank you for those 5 Canadian dollaroos.
That's just the dancing one, right?
Yeah,
I saw that.
Yep. And then Toothless DYT, thank you for another 100 of your rupees. We missed this one. Sorry about this so much. 18 minutes ago. Peter Berg. We share the same last name, by the way. Hey, Mr. Peter Berg. He said, hi from Sweden. Come to DreamHack. Dude, I would love to go to DreamHack any other time except for now. Any other time except for now with the human malware.
Sign me up. Yeah. Okay. So some folk are saying, okay, like we should change the topic,
well, they always say to change the topic no matter what it is.
But I know Jerry and I have we've touched on mental health issues quite a few times. Actually, I think we touch on it. Have touched on it on almost every single episode.
We usually do. It's something I talk about pretty regularly. I'm very comfortable talking about it.
And I think it is important to. I know it's not directly tech related, and this is tech talk. And I also am aware that there is a history of non-tech related talk on Tech Talk, so I don't feel too bad about it. But it is really important because there are a lot of mental issues in the tech space. Like you look at it is a serious problem, and it applies in everything. It is important to talk about, and I know it does make some people uncomfortable.
I'd argue it's a side effect. It's a side effect of technology even now. So
in a way, sure. And I would say technology, not just necessarily now, but throughout history, honestly, because like I feel like it isn't fair to just point at social media or cell phones or the internet or things like that and say, oh, that's the problem.
Yeah,
people have been ignoring each other forever. You look back, people were reading newspapers. They were staying home and listening to the radio. They were reading whatever. People have been ignoring each other forever. It's more obvious now. It's because you're able to see it. It's more in the forefront. But people have been doing it forever, and we're very creative in finding ways to ignore each other.
Yeah, and then we just all of a sudden one day, or relatively speaking, like in a short period of time, we were all thrown into a room together and the doors were closed. Like we went from being able to like go into our houses and be completely cut off. Like the only thing I'm in our house is a telephone, and
Mhm.
you know, maybe your friend calls you or something like that, but there was really no access to you from the outside world. Like if you didn't want it,
Yeah.
you controlled it. Now we're so freaking like just addicted to our devices and technology and so dependent on technology that in order
Mhm.
for us to get the little things that we need from technology, we inadvertently expose ourselves to the rest of the stuff we don't want from technology. And that starts to become like its own topic. By the way, somebody said they disagreed with me about mass murders and the bodies and everything like that. Just to be clear on that, I was joking about that. If you tell your therapist that you're actively murdering people, they probably are going to call the cops.
Oh
Um,
no, yeah, they're obligated to.
yeah,
That's what I
yeah.
mean.
So
You're
no,
harming
no.
yourself.
Yeah, what I'm talking about is you like to put like a belt around your neck or something like that and wear your granny's panties or something like that. No, stuff like that you tell your therapist. You don't tell your therapist that yeah, I'm building, you know, a missile or something. You don't. Come on, common sense here, people. Common sense. But hey, if that's what's bugging you, then maybe you should tell your therapist because you know what they're going to do? They're going to get you help. They're going to get you help.
That's something to say. It's like if I have these urges, I have these thoughts.
Yep.
That's important to say.
Mm.
And that unfortunately that may lead to incarceration of some sort and admittance to a mental health facility or something like that. But if you are genuinely wanting to fix it, mentioning that is important, and being open to whatever needs to be done to fix it is important, because maybe the same thing applies to physical health.
Yeah.
If I go into the doc and say, oh shit, my leg is broken, they're gonna fucking put me in the hospital for a few days or weeks to fix it.
Yeah.
And the same thing applies to your brain. If you go and say, man, I think there's something broken in my brain, I have these thoughts of urges of setting cats on fire or, you know, murdering children, they might have to lock you up for a bit in a hospital to get that fixed. Like it's the same thing.
And to be fair, we all have, every single one of us, at least everybody I know has like compulsions and fantasies that if they carried out in real life, you would just be locked up for the rest of your life. Like I drive around, a BMW cuts me off, and all of a sudden, like every BMW driver, I'm like, I hope that a tornado picks you up and like throws you off into the woods, and I watch your car explode, and I'm gonna laugh so hard. But do you think that's actually what would happen if that play? No, it's not. You're literally playing that. That's your brain just exaggerating to make light of the situation and to kind of calm yourself down. It's weird.
Pretending.
Yeah, pretending.
It's different. You know, like when you get asked, like when I've gone to talk to my therapist, if I mention the fact that I'm like sad or that it's like anxiety related, I have to fill out this form that asks about like suicidal thoughts and things like that. And everybody has thought about it. Okay. I like
everybody.
The thought has crossed your mind.
Yep.
Man, I wonder what it's gonna be like to die. I wonder if I could kill myself. What would that be like? There's a difference.
Or like dreams. You don't have a lot of people understand that you don't have full control over your dreams. They're manifestations of your mind based on a bunch of events. It doesn't mean you're a psychopath if you have a dream of you just like going and shooting all your school bullies in the head or something. No, that's your brain dealing with something without acting out and doing something bad that you'll regret. It's like your brain's way of coping.
Yeah. It's different to think about something like, oh man, that's an interesting thought. Like I've thought about what it would be, what the experience would be like if to have experienced Nagasaki, right? To have been there when the atomic bomb went off. Like I've thought about that. Doesn't mean I want to experience it. Doesn't mean I'm going to like jump into a nuclear reactor or something. Like,
and just as you said that, what am I thinking about right now? Like it's already crossed my mind. It's like I don't even control it. It's like I've envisioned like a big flash, like Terminator 2, and flying by me. Yeah, it's like you
can't help but be like, man, it's like that scene from Terminator 2. Man, I wonder what it would be like. It's the same kind of thing.
Yeah,
it's when it gets to a point where you're like, I don't know. It's kind of self-reflective, I think, too. It's like you have to think, like, is this a problem?
Yep.
Like,
There's
There
obviously
are-
certain things that if you can't stop thinking about them and they constantly manifest themselves, then that's where
like-
therapy is really, really helpful, because you're like, I cannot get away from this, and it's starting to bleed over into something that could potentially manifest itself in reality. Or if it doesn't manifest itself in reality, it's so toxic to me that I'm punishing myself and beating myself up over it. That's another big thing with therapy is you beat yourself up for a lot of things that you shouldn't. That's a very human thing that I learned from my therapist that nobody's unique or exempt from. Is you'll feel guilt for things that you've done, and you have no out to relieve that guilt. Like, for instance, say you did something and you don't want to, you can't tell somebody else, but not telling them is killing you. You're stuck in purgatory, right? Having a therapist is somebody that you can talk it out with. You can actually weigh the pros and cons. You can get some kind of a conclusion on it and figure out like what the best course of action is, so your brain isn't deadlocked in this no-win scenario. And the more of those no-win scenarios that build up in your head, the worse off you are, and the less, brain power you have to focus on things as they're coming at you. And things become more stressful, and things create more anxiety because you have these constant loops that you're not freeing up that are just going through these no-win scenarios. You have to basically let it go. And unfortunately, a lot of us don't have the power to let certain things go. Some of us don't even have the ability, if we wanted to let those things go on our own. So that's when it's sometimes good to get a therapist. Sometimes it's good, like for, antidepressants and stuff. It depends on the person. It depends on the person. Some people don't do well on them. Some people do amazing on them. It just depends. And that's why it's good to have a therapist or somebody like that you can talk things through. And I can tell you from firsthand experience, having the right therapist to talk to about things and to unload things off your chest, oh my God, it is the most relieving thing. And you start to realize how silly some of the shit is too. Like some of the stuff I've built up into absolute Mount Everests in my mind, when I say them out loud to a person and I go through the pros and cons and I weigh it, I'm like, why the fuck was this even a thing?
Yep.
It's so crazy. Like the shit that we beat ourselves up for. It's like the things that we feel guilt for. It's like you're driving down the road and a squirrel runs out in front of you. You slam on the brakes, but you accidentally hit it. And you're like, well, what would have happened if I turned instead of slamming on the brakes? What would have? I'm a sucker for animals, so I don't like seeing it. Even though I love meat and eating it, it's like I don't like going out and killing it myself. So I love animals. I just have a love for animals. So I hit a squirrel once and I bawled my eyes out and I held onto that shit for like 2 years. I just have these random flashes of me hitting this squirrel that was crossing the road because I slammed on the brakes instead of steering. And, oh, sorry, no, that's not what it was. What I did is I honked and I spooked it and it ran into the other lane and another person hit it. But had I just steered around it instead of honking the horn, it probably would have been okay. So I beat myself up for that and beat myself up for that. And it got to the point where it's like I didn't even remember it as a squirrel anymore. I just remembered it as I did a terrible thing. I did a terrible thing. And it's like once I finally talked about that like out loud, and then I started to realize all the things I was associating it with, it wasn't about the squirrel. Like, I still was very sad about that event. I wish that it hadn't happened, but it wasn't the squirrel. It was the squirrel was like the linchpin that made me feel guilty about like a whole bunch of other decisions and started making me think about shit that wasn't a big deal before. Now it is a big deal. And I started beating myself up over everything because I accidentally caused a squirrel to get killed by an oncoming car. And so it's like little stuff like that. You'd be surprised. Therapists are really good at finding these little things that you don't think of twice. Like the cliche childhood thing. That's another thing that is my dad, right? My dad was an abusive father growing up, but then, he kind of got his shit together when he got a little bit older. And we don't really have much of a relationship anymore, but when we do hang out, it's, we're good to each other. We don't hold any kind of, anxiety or anything towards each other for the most part until I talk to my therapist, and my therapist starts going down the childhood path. And I'm like, I'm really uncomfortable here talking about this. Me and my dad don't talk much more. Fast forward like 5 therapy sessions, and I'm like, I feel so much better because the stuff that she talked me through, I start to understand like why I harbor resentment towards my dad, why I'm mad at him for the things he did. And I can reconcile those things. And now I know why I'm mad. Like I understand that, because before I just dismissed it as, oh yeah, there's no way my childhood's still affecting me today. No, it absolutely does. You just don't realize it because you've swapped out all the events in your head, but that is the core. And you start to like, not for everybody, I'm saying for me personally, I realized that my dad had a lot more influence on how I handle problems today and how I act out and how I treat my emotions were influenced a lot by my dad growing up. But I didn't want to give him any credit for any of it, good, bad, or otherwise, just because I was still mad. But it took a therapist to kind of dig that out of me. And even though I thought that was completely the wrong course, and I thought, oh my God, this is cliche as shit, like I realized that actually held a lot of water and helped me out a lot. So it's like I don't harbor as much resentment towards my dad anymore. I've let go of a lot of that stuff. I'm more relaxed about it, but it's a good thing. It's a good thing. I highly recommend that, if you're not comfortable with it, don't do it. That's another thing too. It's like, don't put yourself in an uncomfortable situation. Like if you have a therapist you're uncomfortable around, that is not the right therapist to have. Like a therapist should be somebody you can sit down and in the first 10 minutes, you realize they are not judgmental at all. They are just super chill and they are just super excited to take your $60 or $100 an hour to listen to you go on and on about things. And for some reason, paying them also somehow makes it better. if that makes sense. It's weird. Because you're like, if you pay somebody to bring you food at a restaurant, you get mad if they do a bad job because you're like, I paid you to do this job. Like, do this job right. But if it's your friend that's bringing you food and you're not paying them, then you're like, even if they bring you like dog shit on a plate, you're like, you have to say it's good and you feel obligated to be nice, right? It's same thing with therapy. It's like when you pay for it, you're like, listen, I paid you to help listen to my problems and to help steer me in a positive direction. So once you establish that relationship, you no longer feel like the person on the losing end of it. You feel like the person that holds all the power in that relationship. It's so weird. It's so weird. See, Mopar said, with my childhood, I became very immune to yelling. My sister easily has anxiety attacks from it. I don't know about my brother. Yeah, that's something that I fight with too, is I have moments where I just go from just being like almost calm and reclusive to just yelling. Just yelling and being angry and being generally pissed off at everything. And it's that short fuse that I don't like. That's one of the reasons why therapy was really, really helpful for me. Cryptic Dan said, AuxxZillary, is it okay to play out scenarios in your head, but if those thoughts manifest into physical actions, that's the time to see somebody about it. Yeah. Like we said, everybody has bad thoughts, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you think about it.
Like before the show, I'm sure you were like, man, I hope that fat ass has a heart attack. God, I really hope he just keels over.
No way, man. I can't do this by myself.
He's like in his head. He's like, I wonder if I can get him to put me in the will for that sick ass computer I built for him. Wonder if I can get that sumbitch back when he keels over from the beaties. Oh, all right. Well, we definitely spent a lot of time. I think mental health is something we definitely should talk about ongoing because that's something that plagues everybody. Yeah. And as far as technology, talking about the drugs like we did earlier, as uncomfortable as that might make people, that is a technology, like medical technology. Technology is like the advancement of something, a tool.
It did, it did lead into another kind of segue, but yeah, especially medical science in particular is very fascinating to me, and I think it's freaking cool. I'll very much enjoy keeping an eye on that part of mental health science and stuff, and it'll be really cool to see where it goes.
Yep. Bitnick said nobody likes being angry, and then somebody says, well, I like being angry sometimes. I'll tell you right now that actually you may not think that you want to be angry, but being angry actually puts you in a position of power. It does. Like when you feel like you're backed against a wall and you feel like you have no control over your life, getting just fucking raging pissed at it and just yelling at the problem and even like punching an inanimate object or something like that, that hugely empowers you. Even though it does absolutely nothing for the environment and it doesn't really solve the problem, what it does do is it allows you to, instead of sit in the corner and curl up and cry and run away from the problem, it makes you like super, super amped up and want to run towards it and you want to tackle it. And so emotions are good. Like emotions happen for a reason. Sometimes we get our wires crossed and we got to figure out how to deal with it a little bit better. But no, anger is one of those things where it's like it creates adrenaline. It creates, norepinephrine. It creates all these things that boost your heightened awareness and make you think about things more critically and quicker. So it's not a bad thing.
It's a lot like you ever have those times where like you bawl so hard that like you're like almost sleepy afterward, and then like you're like, oh god, that's so much better.
Yep.
You feel so much better afterward. I feel like anger can be that way too, as long as you like it's focused in the right way.
Yeah. It's like me, my when I get at the absolute end of my anger, like where I'm so angry, I go to a place where nobody else is and I punch an inanimate object. The safest way that I've had, because there's probably 5 holes in my house over the last 15 years in the drywall for me punching it. And one time I punched a stud and I cracked my pinky. But so don't make sure you test the wall before you punch it, like you're gonna do that when you're pissed off. But anyways, my therapist was like, just punch the shit out of a pillow. Like just go in your bed, pull a pillow out, and just yell into it as loud as you can, and just beat the shit out of that pillow as hard as you can. You can't hurt that pillow. You can't hurt that bed. You just fucking like just go aggro on it. And I've done that a couple of times now. And one, it's not nearly as painful as the wall, which is great. The other thing is you would be surprised how fast you wear out when you put everything you have into trying to destroy a pillow. Like literally, don't do it just like in a joking manner, go in there like laugh and like hit the pillow or something. If you are pissed off, go in the room, close the door, grab a pillow, and just scream and beat the shit out of that pillow, and you will literally tire yourself out in like 30 seconds. And then after you do that, you'll notice that everything starts to come into focus again. You start to breathe, you start to relax, you start to calm down because your body's like, I was able to release all that energy in a focused direction, and I made somebody pay for how pissed off I am. Hit the pillow. The pillow didn't feel anything, so I don't feel any guilt or anything bad. I absolutely feel guilty. Like I once punched the wall in front of my wife, and it scared her. It straight up scared her because she'd never seen me do that before. And I punched the wall because I'm not going to hurt anything that I can't fix, right? It's like inanimate objects, but hitting the pillow isn't going to like freak anybody out. If you go into a separate room, you start hitting the pillow. Punching holes through walls will raise the anxiety level of the room, you know? I've left before out of anger, like where I've walked out of the house because I was so angry I didn't know what to do. I just walk out of the house, I get in my car, and I do a burnout, and I drive off. And my kid, I come back home, and I didn't even think about it, but my kid's crying because he's like, Daddy's not coming home. Like and it breaks my heart, and it just kills me. But going in the room and just beating the ever-living shit out of a pillow and screaming into it doesn't hurt anybody. It doesn't hurt you. It doesn't hurt anybody else, but it still achieves that same effect of getting rid of that bad energy because it's built to a level where you obviously need to get it out. If you are that pissed off and you are shaking pissed and seeing red, you have to go let that go. Because if you keep bottling that up over and over again, you are going to get triggered at some point and do something you regret. Yeah. So pillows, guys. Therapy and pillows. That's the solution, man. And DMT and mescaline and
maybe.
And what's the other one? The psilocybin or psilocybin? The
psilocybin.
Yeah, all at once, right? Like all at once in high quantities in public
AMA
areas.
For a few minutes.
Oh, wow. We are approaching 3 hours. Yeah, we should probably take a couple questions and wrap this sumbitch up.
All right.
I think we covered our topics, right? That I put in there? I think we did.
Apparently there's an Nvidia CPU that we didn't know about.
You want to give us the 10,000 foot view of what you know on that?
Oh, well, for one, it's a GPU.
Okay, it's not like an APU or something like that. It's an actual GPU.
No. I think it's the next generation of their GPUs, the 3000, probably the 3080s or whatnot. Oh shit, where'd I put it? Hang on.
Yeah, I think earlier you were saying that they're estimating a 40% increase in performance in a single generation.
Yeah,
that's
over the
nuts,
next,
dude.
Yeah, here we go. If
you guys know how powerful a 2080 Ti is to begin with, holy shit, listen to this.
So this is coming from WCCFtech.com. I've never heard of these guys before. There that is. Check. This is what I'm reading from. So these are very rumor stuff. I generally wouldn't touch on rumory stuff, but Nvidia has been, their advancements in GPU stuff has been really, really good. So it appears that there have been various leaks, such as the GA100, but no conclusive evidence if Ampere is the name of the family. Blah blah blah. This looks to be the next flagship stuff.
Or Ampere, right? Like an amp hour?
Ampere. Yeah, AMPERE.
Yep, okay.
Full configuration would feature 128 streaming multiprocessor units or 8,192 CUDA cores.
That's a lot of CUDA.
That's a lot, yeah. Utilizing the new process and GPU architecture, the chip is rumored to feature a maximum boost clock of up to 2.2 gigahertz on the GPU core, which is pretty cool. That's a huge bump in clock speed, if true. Apparently, that is about 35% faster than the GV100.
See, Mopar cracked me up. He said 40% improvement, but they're going to limit to 10% artificially because no competition.
Right.
I laughed. Yeah. I laughed when I read that because I was like, "Oh my god, dude, that is so true." Nvidia's release it, and then through drivers, you get 100% more performance within a year.
Yeah, they'll put out a driver update to compete with AMD in 2 years.
My god.
We're looking at a 300 watt TDP, which isn't too bad.
That's still pretty crazy, though. 300 watts for a single card in your computer. I remember back when my entire computer used less than 300 watts.
Yeah, right?
It's nuts, dude.
Yeah. We're talking about high bandwidth memory 2, HBM2 E memory. 2 flavors, a 24. So this sounds like it's going to be more along the lines of like either a Titan or Quadro card, 24 gigabytes and 48 gigabyte model. So they're probably going to come out as a or as the
or like a 3080. It'll be like a 3080.
Do they still do the Tesla cards? Nvidia, something along those lines. From reading what they're saying here, this is definitely going to be probably the next generation of Quadro, or possibly Titan, but probably just from the numbers that they're throwing around here, this looks like it's going to be the next Quadro, which will, of course, then trickle
it always
down.
trickles down, right? They're gonna bin them. They'll bin the processors.
Yeah.
They'll release the Quadros first to get the majority of the money from the professional applications. Because here's the problem: is a lot of the professional people now are buying gaming cards. Dude, I've been looking, and like, yeah, these people that used to buy like Quadros and stuff because they needed the performance and the low sound and everything like that. Like tons of them are turning to like 2080 Ti's and just turning down the fan and turning down the TDP and stuff, and still getting the Quadro performance for like 1/3 the price.
Basically, if you need 10-bit color output, or you need official software support from, like, say, Adobe or whatever professional software you're using, you're probably going to have to buy a Quadro for that. But otherwise, if you're just looking at like pure like video rendering or VFX performance or compute or whatever, buy a GeForce, because like say like you're in compute, if you burn out a 2080 Ti, it's cheaper than buying a Titan or a Quadro GG100 or whatever the fuck. You could buy like 4 2080 Ti's for what one Quadro 8000 is going to cost you. So
you know what's actually kind of interesting about this too is I just watched yesterday them talking about the performance of the new Xbox Series X. By the way, Microsoft, you should rename your console because Xbox One X and Xbox Series X is so damn confusing.
Holy cow, just rebrand already.
God, I'm so confused. So the Xbox, the new one, is supposed to be 12 teraflops, which is insane. Insane performance. They said the GPU performance on it is only bested by a 2080 Ti. A 2080 Ti is the only consumer graphics card on the market that actually has slightly better perceived performance based on the numbers. At the moment. But here's what you're saying, right? Is like by the time that drops, this is coming out, right?
The 3080 or something will be out, and then we'll be another generation ahead.
And it's funny because you know what the story was? It was by it was by one of the big publishers, the big computer publishers. They're like, should you buy a PC or should you buy a console? And they're like, oh, you should buy a console because this console is going to only be bested by a PC that costs like $3,000. Well, here's the interesting thing. We all know with Nvidia, the second the 3080 drops, like the second a 3080 drops, all the 20 series cards are going to drop in price, like huge.
Yep.
Because they always go to the new price model and then all the other cards get dropped. So now the card that they're saying is unobtainium today by the average gamer, by the time the Xbox Series X drops, I would wager a bet that card's going to be more than obtainable. Plus that Xbox Series X, they're saying they're probably going to charge $100 more is what they're thinking right now for Microsoft to follow their current model of what they're doing. So you're looking at $600 to $699 to buy an Xbox Series X. Like is what they're predicting.
Sure.
You could build a computer comparable to the performance of that in that number now. Like it's starting. It'll be close enough that there's even if it's within like $300, I would still rather have the computer because of its additional capabilities on top of just being a console.
Right.
And so everybody's talking about it today. Like if PC's frozen time today, then the Xbox Series X would be a good buy even at that price, if it was out today. But it's not going to be out today. By the time it comes out, everybody else is shipping the next generation of hardware.
That's the trouble with consoles.
Yeah. So I'm not dissing on consoles either because I told people I wouldn't buy one, but if there's exclusives that I can't wait a year for them to come out, then yeah, I'll probably end up buying one, but only for exclusives.
Final Fantasy VII remake, man.
You'd buy that, wouldn't you? Like if that came out for Xbox Series X, would you buy one? Like if you had the money, would you be like, I will buy that console just to play that game?
It's coming out on PlayStation, and like part of me is like, oh, I don't want to buy a PlayStation because I'd literally only be buying it to play Final Fantasy VII remake and like Spider-Man.
You will though.
Like, can I rent one? I might buy, like, if there's like a good deal this holiday season, I might.
I will only buy it for exclusives. That's it. The only reason I even own a PlayStation 4 is to play Uncharted. Well, that's what I bought it for originally, was to play Uncharted and to play Last of Us. That was the
Yeah.
only reason that I bought that PlayStation 4. I don't even think I've played anything else on it.
There's God of War as well. There's that
Haven't played that one
Horizon
yet.
Zero Dawn. Dude, there's some killer games for PlayStation this time around.
Oh, and also, Metal Gear. I love the Metal Gear franchise.
Metal
Like, I
Gear?
bought a PS3 just for Metal Gear, and the only things I ever played on that PS3 was Gran Turismo and Metal Gear Guns of the Patriot, the fourth one.
There you go.
That's it. I bought that console just to play one game originally, and then Gran Turismo dropped, and I was like, okay, well, obviously I got to play that too because it's on no other platform. But that's the only reason I buy consoles. I don't buy consoles as a primary gaming source because the computers are always going to be able to do better, and even if they can't do better, they're more versatile. Like, I like the ability on a computer to go drop the graphics settings. No console game ever gives you that option because they optimize it just for that one piece of hardware. I'm hoping that moving forward, they start giving more flexibility in the graphics where you can have a trade-off between quality and performance like you do on a PC. Whoa, you're making faces. What's going on?
Oh, well, so I was like, man, I wonder if I would have to buy a PlayStation to play the Final Fantasy VII remake. And
by the way, thank you, John Simon, for that $5 super chat earlier. Why are they saying that Final Fantasy might be like open to other platforms?
I don't know that this is an official thing, but it looks like it says apparently there is direct mention of PC hardware in the code for the demo. So the Final Fantasy VII remake demo came out the 2nd of March.
Oh, so it's happening.
And so apparently there are direct mention of PC hardware in the code, strongly hinting the game is coming to PC, but not before the PS4 exclusivity deal ends in 2021. So it might come out on PC.
They're saying, well, here's the thing with all the DRM and stuff like Steam, and I'm sure they're going to have their own distribution hub since every company now has their own Steam. Now that they can do stuff like that, I can see them dropping to PC at the same time or earlier than console for certain games. The reason that they always do console exclusivity is because consoles are the hardest platform to pirate on. Because pirate on a console, you have to basically be offline, usually, because you'll get banned eventually. You have to mod it, which means cracking it open and like changing out firmwares and jumping things. Like it's really hard to like root consoles and keep getting updates for them. It's something that doesn't really happen anymore. So that's why they released a console first. That's where they're going to get the majority of their sales, not only selling the console with their agreement with that company and generating profit there, but they're going to sell more copies overall to the console users than they will to the PC users, because the PC users, some will pirate, others just because they have a console, the convenience of being able to play it just laying in bed or whatever. You know, there's reasons why the console game will sell more, but I wish that companies would adopt the new mentality Microsoft's doing, which is just release it all at the same time. Yeah. You know, the DX12 games and like the Microsoft Store, like Forza Horizon 4, Forza 7, they all released pretty close around the same time as the console counterparts for some of them. There was a couple that were delayed, but I like that mentality. It's like, just give it to me everywhere. Let me pick which platform. And the other thing is Microsoft, let me play it on every one of my platforms that's a Microsoft platform. If I buy it for PC, I want to play it on Xbox. If I buy it on Xbox, I want to be able to play it on PC. They already have my login information to the store and everything. They can tell which one I'm playing it on and shut it down at the other location. Like, I'm getting sick of this having to buy 5 copies of everything.
Yeah, that sucks.
Drive me nuts. All right, let's see. Is there anything else you wanted to touch on before we wrap her up there, boss?
No, I think that's... Oh, it is... I see somebody in chat said it is confirmed that it's coming on PC. Cool. Then I'll probably just wait and play it on PC.
I'd wait for PC. Even if it was just a couple of months, I could go without playing an exclusive. But here's the thing I really hate. Oh, my God. One more thing grinds my gears. Is the people that, one, get early access for buying or the pre-orders. They get early access in a game that's an online game where your level dictates your power over other players. So you're getting the ability to, even though they're not selling anything that you can't get in the game, just the time you were able to play, the head start that you got, arguably is like cheating. I fucking hate that shit. I also hate the games that you can't play online cross PC and in Xbox and everything. Like, just let us all play in the same world. It's the same code. Knock that shit off. Let us all play in the same sandbox. I fucking hate that.
It'd be super cool if I could play the Division 2 on my PC with my brother on his PlayStation.
Yeah.
Like, that would be so much fun.
And luckily they're doing that for a lot of the Microsoft stuff. Like, I think the Forza stuff, because I've seen the little controllers show up in game. So I think in Forza you can play against Xbox people, because I think I even played with Jason one night where I was on PC and he was on Xbox and we were both in Forza Horizon 4. Correct me if I'm wrong in chat, guys, but it looks like Microsoft, because they're using the same code base, because they've done that thing where it's like all the games and everything are all engineered for cross-platform between Xbox, which has a Windows 10 kernel, the PC. I think it's just Xbox and PC because they really don't have any other platform because their mobile platform's dead for the most part. So, but yeah, that's what I want to see. I want to see Xbox and even PlayStation games able to play together. Like, if it's a common game that's released on both platforms, just the same server infrastructure for everything.
Can't you do I think Fortnite you can do. You can do. It's all cross. It's PC, mobile, and all the consoles. I think they are all mixed together. Yeah.
What about that new one that everybody's playing? That new FPS. What's it called?
Apex.
Apex Legend. Yeah. I wonder if that one's also a cross-platform because I've seen some guys when I've been in there playing that game that look like they have like controller, like it looks like they're playing on a controller. It doesn't mean they're on a console, but you can tell by the way people are moving and stuff like that they're not using a mouse and keyboard. So, all right. So you ready to wrap her up and do an outro here?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, guys, we're trying to keep Tech Talk to under 3 hours. We overshot a little bit today, but we're trying to do that just so it's a little bit easier to schedule and it's a little bit easier to predict between no less than 2 hours, no more than 3 hours, but we broke that rule today. But it was our first time. I would also like to call it, this is our 5th episode. Not our 6th. Right. I thought it was our 6th yesterday, but it's our 5th, which means now we can officially tell that guy, the random guy in chat from the first episode, that he has to eat his hat with ketchup for saying that this wouldn't last a month. So we've now done 5 episodes, so a month and a week. So he has to eat his hat. If anybody knows that guy, track him down and get a picture.
Yeah.
And let's see here, wrapping up. Also, guys, I'm going to be streaming over on the Twitch today at 2 p.m. So I'm going to take a little break to go have some luncheroo and put some more food in this face that this body obviously doesn't need. Take more cold medicine, and I will see you guys at 2 p.m. over on Twitch. And are you going to be streaming today too?
I don't think so. No. Okay. I think I got something going on. I know there's like a lacrosse thing the teenagers doing. That's later this evening.
Lacrosse? I haven't heard of that in a long time.
Yes, it's getting to be more popular.
That's like
actually.
The shit with the stick in the net, right? Is that lacrosse?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Shit, I didn't even know they still played that.
I think it's in the Summer Olympics for the first time this year.
That actually looks like something fun, actually. I've always liked the idea of just like having a long pole that you can just huck these balls at like 100 miles an hour at each other. I actually think
that's a hefty. It's like a racquetball. It's like little rubber ball. Like I was shocked. I thought
the net's kind of stiff too, isn't it? Like the net on the thing, so you can like really wallop some power into that thing when you're hucking it, right?
It's got like a rubber, like a track in the center of it to help, I think, with direction and stuff. But yeah, it's neat. I'm excited to learn about a new sport. So.
Dude, that's freaking awesome. Well, since you're not live streaming today, I guess I'll have to live stream extra long over on my thing. Okay. I was gonna raid you if you were gonna stream, but no, I guess you gotta go watch sports.
I'm sure one of these times I will.
You will. Are you streaming tomorrow?
Yeah. No, I generally don't on the weekends.
When's your next stream so people know when they can come chill with you after this?
Tuesday evening, where I'll be playing games at least. Tuesday evening, 8:30 Pacific Standard Time.
Over on Twitch, and all of his live streaming information is down in the video description. Once this publishes and goes live, you guys should be able to see that if you can't see it right now. Also, special thanks to all the people that did super chats today. We appreciate it. That's how we both make our living. We split the super chats down the middle between us. So that we both get something from this. So we really do appreciate you guys doing that, especially since YouTube obviously is going to ban this episode for talking about the thing.
Maybe.
Yeah, actually, this is an experiment. We don't know if they're going to or not because it's not in the title. It's not anywhere. It's just one word during 3 hours. So if we see them do that, we know for a fact that they are going through the transcript and looking for words, which is I know they are, but I'm wondering how hard they're implementing it. All right, so I think that's a wrap. I will see you guys at 2 o'clock, so about 45-ish minutes, over on Twitch TV/Barnacules. Also linked down below, but make sure you go give AuxxZillary a follow over on the Twitters, because he's on the Twitters.
Social media stuff is all the same.
Yep, Instagram. You're on Instagram, Twitter, and Twitch primarily, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so go follow all that stuff so you get notifications when he's live streaming, because we do our separate thing and we do our thing together every week. And we want to make sure that we want to grow each other's audiences here, right? You know, he's got all the bearded people from like the Hell's Angels, and I've got all the fat virgins for life. You know, and we're trying to cross merge those communities and get them comfy with each other. All right, guys. So we'll see you next weekend, same bat time, same bat place. Our new format, 10 a.m. is our new schedule, Pacific Standard Time. Yep, on Saturday. So woo! All right, so we gotta do something silly on. Oh yeah, and again, if you guys are jonesing for some hand sanitizer, the recipe is literally just aloe vera, And there you go, the space for rent. I love it. I love it. Oh my god, that's cool, dude. Just hold that up while I stop the stream. All right, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and end it right here, and we will see you next week. If you guys don't come over to Twitch and check us out over there, we will be together again next week Saturday. All right, peace out. Later.
Bye.
Boy, I'm trying to push the button, but now the browser is not responding. Oh, the browser is still not responding. And hold on, now it's loading. It's loading. It's thinking still. I need to open the window and push the other button to be sure. And